Chapter 431. The cave was quite large and could accommodate a few hundred people. The stone wall in front of them was inlaid with natural spirit stones that had not been mined. The eyes of Jiang Ye and the others immediately lit up. Although the Iron Bone Mountain also had some and they had mined quite a bit, this thing had pure spiritual energy, so no one would complain about it. Jun Changshao walked over, pointed at the rough marks on the stone wall, and said, "Did you leave them behind?" "No." Ren Shan said with a blank face, "When we left, the stone wall was very intact, there were no traces of damage left. Moreover," he looked around and was even more puzzled, "why does it feel like the cave is much bigger than last time?" "Oh." Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "Could it be that there are other people who know about this spirit stone vein?" "It can't be." Ren Shan was in disbelief. After all, this place was very hidden and there were high-level vicious beasts outside. There were definitely not many people with his luck. Jun Changshao didn't care if anyone knew about it or not. What he was thinking about now was how to dig out all the spirit stones without leaving a single one behind. Although he was missing 999 stones, since he had found the vein, he would definitely take all of them. As for Ren Shan, well, just give him a few hundred as a labor fee. The system ridiculed, "The host is really sorry for the title of chivalrous warrior. If there was a function to take it back, I'm afraid it would have been taken away long ago. Every man for himself, and the heavens and earth will destroy him." Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Treasures, start digging." Li Qingyang and the others received the order, then took out their cold-edged sword and began to peel off the spirit stones on the stone wall. Ren Shan was startled. It was his first time digging with his companions, and he had destroyed quite a few spirit stones. These people were very skilled, completely unlike newbies who were mining for the first time. "Little friend," Ren Shan said timidly, "I've brought it to the place, can I leave now?" He didn't care if the spirit stones were dug out. He only hoped to leave as soon as possible, so as to avoid being silenced by this guy. Martial arts resources were good. But he only had one life, so it was especially important. "You can't leave." Jun Changshao said, "Qianqian, watch him, don't let him slip away." Lu Qianqian didn't say anything, but she was already standing in front of the exit. Ren Shan couldn't help but shiver. The mountain wall was very hard, but in front of the sharpness of the cold-edged sword, it was like tofu. Jun Changshao, Li Qingyang, and the others began to dig. In just 2 hours, they had dug out 600 to 700 stones. Sect leader Jiang Ye transmitted his voice, "I'm afraid there are still a lot of spirit stones here. If we dig, I'm afraid it will take a long time." Jun Changshao stopped and asked, "Can you get in touch with the sect?" Jiang Ye said, "With my current understanding of the sound transmission technique, I can only reach a range of 1,000 miles. I have to ride on a hurricane wolf and travel a bit more before I can reach him." "Take that kid out." Jun Changshao said, "Contact the sect as soon as possible and have Hall Master Li summon all the members of the Wolf Rider Hall." There was strength in numbers. If they could dig it out as quickly as possible, they would dig it out. "All right." Jiang Ye grabbed Ren Shan with one hand and brought him out of the cave. Li Qingyang and the others continued to dig. One by one, the natural spirit stones were freshly produced and kept into the space ring. However, after digging for another hour, Lu Qianqian frowned and said, "Sect leader, there's movement in the tunnel." Jun Changshao and the others all stopped. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The cave quieted down, and a rubbing sound could be heard coming from the exit. And it was getting clearer and clearer, as if something was crawling over. Li Qingyang frowned, "Sect leader, there won't be any pythons or other fierce beasts in this tunnel, right?" "It's possible." Jun Changshao also judged from the rustling sound that it was more like the crawling sound of a snake, so he warned everyone, "Be careful." Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji placed the cold-edged sword in front of them, their eyes filled with respect. Yi Xingqian had an indifferent look on his face. To him, no matter what kind of fierce beast it was, as long as it dared to appear, he would let it die. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sound of friction with the ground became louder and louder, and it sounded like there were a lot of them. Could it be that a group of snake beasts were crawling over? If an ordinary person heard such a terrifying sound here, they would definitely be scared out of their wits. Especially those girls who were born with a fear of snakes and insects. They would probably be trembling in fear and screaming out loud. Lu Qianqian was a girl, but she was not afraid at all. It seemed that she was not afraid of snakes, but might be afraid of cockroaches. Hoo hoo. Suddenly, a cold wind blew from the entrance of the tunnel, bringing with it a nauseating stench that almost made everyone vomit on the spot. Hiss, hiss. At this moment, a strange sound came, and a slender and smooth snake beast quickly crawled over from the entrance of the tunnel. They were about the same as ordinary snakes, about a meter long. However, the difference was that their heads were full of eyes that flickered with a sinister light. Those with trypophobia would definitely feel their scalps explode and their heads spin. Multi-eyed snake. Li Qingyang said. Whoosh. Lu Qianqian unsheathed her cold light sword. The cold sword light flashed, and more than 20 multi-eyed snakes that crawled in were cut in half. However, there were still a large number of snake beasts crawling in from the outside. Their eyes flickered with a sinister light, making people's hair stand on end. Guard the entrance of the tunnel, don't let them in. Jun Changshao shouted. Swoosh! Swoosh! Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji held their swords and went up. Sword light flashed frequently, directly killing the snake beasts that crawled in, and stood at the entrance. The two looked at the entrance of the tunnel and suddenly gasped. In the visible range, a dense number of snake beasts crawled in quickly. There were so many of them that they almost occupied the entire tunnel. This, if not 1,000, there were at least 800 or 900 of them. Leader. Li Qingyang's mouth twitched and said, there are so many multi-eyed snakes. Get out of the way. Jun Changshao shouted. Swoosh! Swoosh! Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji hurriedly dodged, revealing the entrance of the tunnel. Ta! Jun Changshao strode forward and quickly used the imperial fire technique. His palms pushed toward the entrance of the tunnel, and suddenly, hot flames erupted. Huff huff. The exquisite fire formed a fire pillar under the support of the martial skill, completely enveloping the tunnel and violently penetrating the back. The multi-eyed snakes that were crawling in were unable to withstand the impact of the flames and the heat formed by the flames. They were instantly burned to ashes, and the ground was scattered with egg-sized crystal cores. This way of killing monsters was definitely super cool. However, before Li Qingyang had time to be happy, multi-eyed snakes suddenly crawled out of the walls of the cave. Damn it! They can even dig holes. Boom! At this moment, the wall on the left suddenly collapsed, and a thick and huge multi-eyed snake crawled out. Its body size could be classified as a python. Multi-eyed Snake King. Li Qingyang said solemnly. Boom! 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 The walls in the other directions collapsed, and the thick-bodied multi-eyed snake kings appeared one after another. Behind them, countless multi-eyed snakes gathered. At a glance, one could determine that there were at least 2,000 or 3,000 of them. Seeing so many snakes and so many snake kings, Jun Changshao and the others suddenly realized that the intricate tunnel outside was probably dug by them. This place was not only a spiritual stone mine, but also a large snake nest. Chapter 432. Snakes were really scary. Especially when a group of snakes gathered in a densely packed formation, it was even more terrifying. Jun Changshao and the 5 disciples were in the middle of a group of snakes. Not only were there countless small snakes, but there were also several large snakes. The air was filled with a pungent stench, forcing them to hold their breaths. People who were naturally afraid of snakes would have fainted long ago if they were to stand here. Hiss, hiss. Thousands of multi-eyed snakes flicked their tongues, their eyes flashing with a sinister light. These small snakes were not scary. After all, they were only third or fourth grade. The scary ones were the large snakes, because they were comparable to peak martial masters. Rustle, rustle, rustle. Rustle, rustle, rustle. At the entrance of the scorched tunnel, there were still many multi-eyed snakes rushing in wave after wave. Sect leader. Li Qingyang said solemnly, we seem to be in trouble. They could still kill dozens or hundreds of them, but thousands of them were too many. Moreover, who knew if there were more in the tunnel? If they were entangled in a protracted battle, it would definitely be very troublesome. There was a more important point. If there was poison, it would only be more disadvantageous for everyone. Hiss! Hiss! A few multi-eyed snake kings screamed. Thousands of multi-eyed snakes slithered over with their slender bodies. Just imagine how creepy it would be to see so many snakes swarming from all directions. The multi-eyed snakes did not rush forward recklessly. Instead, they raised their heads, opened their mouths, and revealed their sharp fangs. The stench was even stronger. Jun Changshao pinched his nose and broke down. Are they trying to kill us? No. They were gathering poison. Gradually. The multi-eyed snake's sharp fangs were dark green, as if they were smeared with poison. Sect leader. Li Qingyang said, they are poisonous. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, the multi-eyed snakes shot over like arrows. Their mouths were open, and it was obvious that they were going to bite with their fangs. Whoosh! Li Qingyang and Xiao Ziji waved their cold-edged swords, and immediately, dense sword light intertwined. Puchi! Puchi! The multi-eyed snakes were killed one by one. However, the moment their bodies were separated, dark green blood splattered on the ground, creating a strong corrosive effect. Not only was it poisonous, but it was also extremely toxic. Everyone, be careful. Jun Changshao hurriedly said, don't let the poison touch your body. As he spoke, he flicked his wrist, and dazzling sword flowers shot out explosively. They cut down a few dozen multi-eyed snakes that attacked him, and their poisonous blood poured down like rain. Shwa! 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 Even more snake beasts rushed over like moths that were not afraid of death. Ta! Yixingchen could not bear it any longer. He took a step forward and placed his hand on cold-edged sword. His eyes flashed with a cold light. Clang! The sword was unsheathed, and sword light appeared. Swish, 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 swish. In an instant, Yixingchen used the one-word fast technique. More than 50 sword rays flashed in the cave. It was dazzling. Nearly 100 multi-eyed snakes were chopped into pieces under the crisscrossing sword light. Their blood splashed out, and soon formed a dark green curtain of blood. Boom! 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 At the same time, Yixingchen's 50-odd strands of sword qi landed on the stone wall and immediately cut it to pieces. Hiss, hiss, hiss. Behind the broken area, more multi-eyed snakes appeared, and there were many multi-eyed snake kings among them. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of them. Fuck! Seeing this, Jun Changxiao's mouth twitched. There are so many of them. Boom! Boom! In another direction, Zhou Hong used the one-word fast technique to destroy the incoming multi-eyed snakes. The wall was damaged and collapsed again, and tens of thousands of them appeared. The cave, which could originally accommodate a few hundred people, suddenly became even more spacious as the two walls collapsed. On both sides and at the entrance of the tunnel, there were multi-eyed snakes and multi-eyed snake kings. Due to the space limitation, they were even huddled together, squeezing each other. It was so annoying and disgusting. The system said, 96,321 snakes. Accurate to the single digits, it was absolutely awesome. Jun Changshao was not in the mood to admire the system's calculation ability, and the corners of his mouth twitched even more. If there were only 10 or 20,000 snakes, he was confident that he and his disciples could hold on, but now there were close to 100,000 snakes. Not to mention killing, just looking at them made his scalp tingle. Our arrogant Yixingqian looked at the sea of snakes in front of him, and the corners of his mouth twitched slightly. To be honest, there were a lot of snakes, but there were ways to deal with them. For example, using Red Sky Raging Flame / or 7 Mystic Sunglow Break. But now they were in a cave, and if they used powerful martial arts, not to mention causing a collapse, it would be terrible if it affected the Spirit Stone Mine. Sect leader Li Qingyang said, "What should we do?" Jun Changshao frowned. "If there is no other way, use martial arts and kill them all." He did not care if the Spirit Stone Mine was destroyed, because in the current situation, surviving was the most important thing. Ding! Side mission activated. Could it be that the mission was related to the multi-eyed snakes? As expected. Opening the data panel, the mission displayed was eliminate all the multi-eyed snakes without destroying the Spirit Stone Mine. Countdown, 119,120 seconds, time limit mission, elite mission. Damn, damn, damn. After seeing the mission, sect leader Jun cursed in his heart. Just now, he was still thinking that if there was no other way, he would destroy the Spirit Stone Mine to eliminate the multi-eyed snakes. In the end, a mission that could not be destroyed was given, and it only had 120 seconds. Whoosh whoosh. On the other side, Yixingqian had already begun to use Red Sky Raging Flame / and the spiritual energy around his body gradually turned into a fire-like attribute, filled with a sense of irritation. This was just the beginning. When condensed to the extreme and used, it would definitely form a powerful lethality. At that time, the cave would definitely be destroyed. Jun Changshao hurriedly said, "Don't use this move, lest you destroy the Spirit Stone Mine." Yixingqian could only disperse the power of the flames. Hiss hiss hiss. At this moment, thousands of multi-eyed snakes crawled over. Their exposed teeth were already smeared with poison, and if they were to charge dauntlessly, it would definitely be difficult to defend. Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, Lu Qianqian, Yixingqian, and Zhou Hong surrounded the sect leader, forming a pentagon. They couldn't use high-grade martial arts techniques, and facing so many multi-eyed snakes, they really didn't have much confidence in their hearts. "Get out of the way," Jun Changshao said in a deep voice. "This venerable one is going to use his true strength." As he spoke, he lightly raised his left hand, and the space in his palm blurred, and a pocket-sized toy knife suddenly appeared. This was hard to withdraw knife. Since they couldn't destroy the Spirit Stone Mine, and they had to eliminate all the multi-eyed snakes within 2 minutes, Jun Changshao could only use his biggest trump card. Li Qingyang and the others had witnessed the sect leader wielding this saber in Death Valley, so they knew how powerful it was. It could easily kill a fire dragon of the 5th rank. Thus, they immediately moved aside to create enough space for the saber to be used. How much space did they move? That's right, 40 meters was just right. Shio! 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 Just at this moment, the thousands of multi-eyed snakes that crawled over launched an attack, shooting over like sharp arrows. There were so many of them that it was as if they had turned into a rain of arrows. Pa! The opening talisman of the spatial ring was crushed, and the seal of hard-to-withdraw knife was immediately removed. Jun Changshao's right hand pinched the handle of the knife, and his body slightly bent down. With a cold gaze, he said, "Bankai Fury slashing the 9 heavens." Clang hard-to-withdraw knife was unsheathed, and the light in the cave was dazzling. Li Qingyang and the others found it difficult to adapt, and they hurriedly raised their hands to block in front of their eyes, and when they felt the majestic and heavy aura rushing towards them, their minds were deeply shaken. The sect leader had turned on his pretentious mode again. Chapter 433. Jun Changshao unsheathed hard saber for the third time. Perhaps it was because his cultivation had increased, but the majestic aura of the unsheathed saber was stronger than that of the Death Valley. The flashing light made it difficult for the 5 disciples to open their eyes. After a while, the light weakened and everything returned to normal. Jun Changshao stood proudly. The unsheathed hard saber was 40 meters long and exuded a majestic aura. One word could describe it: handsome. Under the suppression of the powerful aura, the multi-eyed snakes that attacked like a rain of arrows froze in midair. Their eyes were filled with fear. Swoosh! Jun Changshao waved his hand. His black hair danced in the wind. The 40-meter-long saber swept across mercilessly. Swoosh! Swoosh! The multi-eyed snakes that were frozen in place by some special force were harvested like weeds. Swoosh! Sect leader Jun waved hard saber again and slashed at the snakes that had gathered together. He began to stir crazily like a blender. The multi-eyed snakes that were controlled by the aura could not move at all. What awaited them was death or even being chopped into pieces. Swoosh! Swoosh! Sect leader Jun, who had activated his pretentious mode, waved hard saber frequently. Nearly 100,000 multi-eyed snakes could only become pitiful lambs waiting to be slaughtered. Yi Xingqian was shocked. What kind of divine weapon is this? He did not care about Jun Changshao's crazy slaughter. What he cared about was that the aura that permeated the surroundings had the ability to disturb people's minds. The multi-eyed snakes could not move. They were definitely suppressed. A martial king could gather spiritual sense and form a defensive wall around his body. Wu Huang could transform his spiritual energy into an aura to intimidate his opponent and make it difficult for them to move. A saber had such an ability. It was unbelievable. Yi Xingqian tried to recall the past. He could not think of such a divine weapon in the Falling Star continent. Unless it was from the upper realm. Swoosh! Swoosh! The saber flashed coldly. The many-eyed snakes and even the many-eyed snake king that had been suppressed were quickly killed. Blood and minced meat were scattered everywhere. The stench in the air became stronger. The time limit for the side mission was also jumping. In less than 20 seconds, nearly 100,000 multi-eyed snakes in the huge cave were all killed. Jun Changshao dragged his 40-meter saber, and his entire body was shrouded in a thick and heavy aura. He gave Li Qingyang and the others the feeling that he was an invincible war god. Ding! Side mission completed. Host will receive 2,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 691150000. Ding! Sect contribution points overflow. The system said, not bad, not bad, a side quest gave you 2,000 contribution points. Not bad. Jun Changshao cursed in his heart, I only have 2 opening talismans. Now that I've wasted one, I won't get 5,000 contribution points. I'll definitely lose out. Time limit mission plus elite mission. This made him realize that once the mission was completed, the reward would definitely be generous. Under normal circumstances, it would be impossible to deal with so many multi-eyed snakes within 2 minutes. Therefore, Jun Changshao did not consider using hard to stop. Now, he was only given 2,000 contribution points. What a huge loss. I knew this would happen. Jun Changshao broke down and said, it's better to let the mission fail. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the elite mission. You've received Experience Talisman X1, Supreme Grade Aptitude Modification Liquid X1. Ding! Congratulations to the host for completing the time limit mission. You've received Middle Grade Formation Aptitude Liquid X1, Middle Grade Swordsmanship Aptitude Liquid X1. The follow-up prompts sounded. Jun Changshao, who was in the midst of breaking down, suddenly stiffened. Sometimes, one shouldn't speak too early. Because even the protagonist could be slapped in the face at the speed of light. If it was such a slap in the face, Jun Changshao would definitely be like the readers who hoped that the author would release more chapters to slap in the face. Add a deadline and slap me in the face for 100,000 years. The system said, do you still feel that you've lost out? Jun Changshao grinned and said, it's not a loss, it's super profitable. A single opening talisman not only protected the spirit stone mine, but also gave him 2,000 contribution points and so many other rewards. Indeed, super profitable. Not to mention other things, just the experience talisman as a reward was enough to make Jun Changshao grin from ear to ear, not to mention the middle grade formation aptitude liquid and middle grade swordsmanship aptitude liquid. Ha ha ha. Ah ha ha ha. Jun Changshao laughed so hard that his face was crooked. Li Qingyang and the others were dumbfounded, thinking, why is the sect leader laughing so hard for no reason? Xiao. The hard blade shrunk and returned to its pocket-sized form. Jun Changshao had just sheathed the blade when his whole body seemed to have been hollowed out in an instant, and he fell limp. The hard blade was very powerful, this was undeniable, but its weakness was also very obvious. After using it, one had to be weak for 30 minutes. Don't just stand there. Jun Changshao said, hurry up and pick up the crystal cores. Li Qingyang and the others received the order. They first used stones to cover the poisonous blood, then put the scattered crystal cores into the space ring. Other than the high-level crystal core of the multi-eyed Snake King, the other crystal cores were too low-level and small in size, completely meaningless. However, Jun Changshao didn't mind. After all, the sect had an incubator. If they found more eggs of dire beasts in the future, they could use it to increase the mutation rate. The system said, the host is thinking too far. 30 minutes later. Jun Changxiao's weakness disappeared, and he jumped up and ordered, you guys continue to mine the spirit stones. The multi-eyed Snake King had been exterminated, and the cave became very safe. Li Qingyang and the others could concentrate on mining, and the natural spirit stones were dug out one by one. Sect leader Jun's consciousness entered the space ring, and he held the experience talisman in his hand, crushing it without hesitation. Huff, huff. In an instant, a majestic aura spread out from his body and enveloped the whole cave. Li Qingyang and the others, who were mining, turned their heads and said in surprise, the sect leader is about to break through. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the 8th stage of Wuzong. Ding! The host has successfully broken through to the 9th stage of Wuzong. When the notification sounded in his ears, Jun Changxiao's spiritual energy core and vortex underwent a huge change. It was purer and stronger than before. Huff! Jun Changxiao exhaled a mouthful of turbid air, and the aura around him disappeared. He couldn't help but say, how refreshing. Li Qingyang and the others' mouths twitched. They had just exterminated a group of multi-eyed snakes in the cave, and the sect leader had suddenly broken through. And from the aura, it seemed like he had reached a very high level of Wuzong. Not bad. He was only one step away from the peak of Wuzong. According to the previous pattern, when I reach the peak of Wuzong, an epic mission will be triggered. Jun Changxiao thought to himself. Schwa. With a thought, he took out 2 types of mid-grade liquid that represented the array Dao and the sword Dao, and drank them one by one. Huff, huff. In an instant, countless knowledge related to the array Dao and the sword Dao appeared in sect leader Jun's mind. Especially when he thought about the Ling Jian's divine formula, he felt like he was suddenly enlightened. The system said, with the host's current understanding of the sword Dao, as long as you reach the peak of Wuzong and break through a large realm, you will become the extremely rare sword Dao and martial Dao king in the falling star continent. Is that so? Jun Changxiao replied. If someone who practiced both sword and martial arts heard this kind of nonchalant answer, they would definitely rush over and strangle him by the neck and roar, do you know how rare it is to be a sword and martial king? Why can't you show a shocked expression? It couldn't be helped. To become the Sword Dao and Martial Dao kings, one had to go through a lot of trials and cultivation. Because he had experienced it personally, he knew how precious it was. Sect leader Jun relied on the liquid to increase his cultivation. He didn't experience the hardships and naturally couldn't understand how great it was. Sigh. Players with cheats were indeed amazing. Chapter 434. Let's calculate how sect leader Jun rose from Wuzong to 9th rank Wuzong. First, he completed the epic mission in the Holy Spring sect and entered 2nd rank Wuzong from peak martial master. Second, with the help of the experience talisman, he won 3 ranks in a row and entered 5th rank Wuzong. Third, with the help of a large number of natural spirit stones, he entered 7th rank Wuzong from 5th rank Wuzong in a short period of 10 days. Fourth, with the help of the experience talisman, he advanced 2 ranks in a row and entered 9th rank Wuzong. In summary, Jun Changshao really relied on cultivation to reach 7th rank, but he still had the help of natural spirit stones from 5th rank to 7th rank. Other people spent a lot of effort to condense spirit energy, comprehend martial arts, and advance step by step. He was good. He used cheats to advance the whole time, completely unreasonable. What was more shameless was, as long as he entered the big realm, with the help of the mid-grade sword path aptitude fluid, he would become the sword and martial king. There was not the slightest ripple in his heart. To be honest, I want to beat him up. Some readers might not be able to stand it and say that the protagonist relied on the system. Without the system, he was nothing. Indeed. Without the system, Jun Changshao would have been dead long ago. But since the system could bring him so much convenience, why couldn't he use it? He even gave me a bottle of the best aptitude modification fluid. Who should I give it to? Jun Changshao thought. Speaking of the best aptitude modification fluid, he remembered something and hurriedly opened the purchase store. Sure enough, the 1-year limited aptitude modification fluid changed from gray to bright, indicating that it could be purchased. What made Jun Changshao even more surprised was that originally, he was limited to 3 bottles per year, but now that the cooldown was restored, he could actually buy 5 bottles. The system said, that's because the sect's construction was upgraded. I see. Jun Changshao hurriedly chose the highest value and clicked on the purchase button. Ding! The host has spent 1500 contribution points and obtained the aptitude modification fluid X5. It has been transferred to the space ring. Ding! Sect contribution points, 5411500. There are still 411 points. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and pondered for a moment before he said, why don't we buy another AWM and equip it with Drizzle Hall? He did as he was told and spent 500 contribution points to buy a God-modified AWM. When his contribution points returned to 4,911 points, Jun Changshao and his disciples began to dig for natural spirit stones. One opening seal talisman completed the side quest and improved his realm and various attributes. He also bought 5 bottles of the best quality attribute modification fluid and an AWM sniper rifle. Oh my god. It felt so good that Jun Changshao was laughing foolishly while mining. The next day, Jiang Yi dragged Ren Shan in. The 500 members of the Wolf Rider Hall followed closely behind. The reason why they were able to arrive so quickly was naturally because they were riding on hurricane wolves. Looking at the snake corpses all over the ground in the cave, Jiang Yi said with a confused expression, why are there so many multi-eyed snakes? Jun Changshao briefly explained the situation and ordered the members of the Wolf Rider Hall to start mining. The more people there were, the more power there was. Several hundred members of the Wolf Rider Hall participated in the mining. Spirit stones were peeled off one after another, and the stone wall extended endlessly into the depths. Ren Shan's mouth twitched. Previously, he and his companions had spent a lot of effort and only managed to dig out 200 to 300 spirit stones. This group of people dug out 2,000 to 3,000 spirit stones in 2 hours. There was no way they could compare. Jun Changshao did not dig the spirit stones himself. He sat on a chair with his legs crossed and happily took out the 32 formations of wonder to study. With the middle grade formation talent, he was eager to study the middle grade spirit gathering formation. Only then could he improve his and his disciples' cultivation speed faster. The structure principle is similar to a beginner one, but in terms of formation, it's more complicated. It's not something that can be learned in a short time. Jun Changshao thought to himself. Young friend. Ren Shan leaned over and said weakly, "Can you let me go now?" Jun Changshao looked at him and said, "You're a koi fish. How can I let you go?" Koi fish. Ren Shan's expression changed drastically. He was comparing himself to a fish that was placed on a chopping board to be chopped. His imagination was quite rich. In fact, koi fish represented luck and auspiciousness. Jun Changshao called Ren Shan a koi fish. It was completely reasonable. In the depths of the Black Devil Forest, which was full of danger and had a complicated environment, he discovered a spirit stone mine. Although he was discovered by the demon channeling hall and was hunted down, his companions all died in the mouths of ferocious beasts while he escaped unscathed. He had just escaped from the jaws of the tiger and fell into a pack of wolves. He was hunted down by the demon channeling hall again. Just as he was about to die, he appeared and allowed him to escape death again. Who else could have such luck? More importantly, the spirit stone mine was actually the nest of the multi-eyed snake. He and his companions could discover it and even mine the spirit stones. Other than the main character of a novel, who else could have better luck? How could Sect Master Jun let such a koi fish go? Thus, he said, "Are you interested in joining my sect?" Sect? Ren Shan was stunned. What sect? Iron Bone Clan, Jun Changshao said. Iron Bone Clan. Ren Shan's expression changed. Then, he thought of something and said in surprise, "You are disciples of Iron Bone Clan?" From his expression, it was obvious that he had heard of Iron Bone. The biggest advantage of being a rogue cultivator was that he could get a lot of information from many channels when he was in the Jianghu all year round. First, they defeated the Sacred Spring sect and destroyed 4 evil sections. Ren Shan must have heard of Iron Bone and even discussed it with his companions. "Brother Shan, I heard that the Iron Bone clan master is not old. He is only 18 or 19 years old." This was what one of his companions said before he died. The person in front of him called himself this lord and was so young. Could it be? Ren Shan's expression changed. He said in surprise, "You are the Iron Bone clan master, Jun Changshao." "That's right." Jun Changshao said. Ren Shan's expression changed again and again. At that moment, he finally understood why the other party dared to destroy the people of the Demon Channeling Hall. After all, this sect had fought with the third-rate deicide hall. Sect Master Jun. Ren Shan hurriedly cupped his hands and said, "I am willing to join the Iron Bone clan." What a joke. He might not have the means to join such a potential sect. Now that Sect Master Jun had taken the initiative to invite him to join, this was definitely an opportunity that could not be missed. Furthermore, if he refused, he might be killed to silence him. Schwa. Jun Changshao waved his hand and took out the entry form. After filling in his name, he stamped the sect master's seal. The number of people in the sect and the contribution points increased by 1 point. From today onwards, you are my Iron Bone disciple. Make good use of your koi attribute and bring more luck to the sect. The corner of Ren Shan's mouth twitched slightly. We're already on the same side, why do you still treat me like a fish? Don't just stand there. Jun Changshao said, "Hurry up and go dig for spirit stones." Ren Shan collapsed, "Sect Master, I am injured right now, I can't do heavy work." Jun Changshao threw over a middle-grade heal pill and said, "Eat it." Ren Shan caught the pill. Although he had doubts in his heart, he still obediently swallowed it. His injuries quickly healed, and he was dumbfounded on the spot. Oh my God! What kind of elixir was this? It could actually heal his injuries in an instant. Chapter 435. Ren Shan was afraid that he would be killed to silence him, so he chose to join the Iron Bone. Little did he know that sect leader Jun accepted him as a disciple because he was worried that the news of him finding a spirit stone vein in the Black Devil Forest would spread. Becoming my disciple, as long as you betray me, your memories will be erased, which is equivalent to an arrangement. Ding dong. Ding dong. Inside the cave, the Iron Bone disciple held the sharp cold-edged sword and harvested as fast as he could. This spirit stone vein wasn't big, and it was completely harvested in just a few days. After counting, he had obtained a total of more than 30,000 spirit stones. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, compared to our Iron Bone Mountain spirit stone vein, it can't be compared at all. Jiang Yu said, sect leader, this should be a small spirit stone vein. If it was a little bigger, it would have formed a phenomenon of heaven and earth. It would have been difficult to hide it with the miasma in the forest alone. So that's how it is. Jun Changshao led everyone out of the cave. When they reached the forest, he summoned the Hurricane Wolf King and returned to the Iron Bone. Shwa! 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 One by one, the Hurricane Wolves carried the Iron Bone disciples through the depths of the forest. Because there were too many of them, the beasts hiding in the dark were all trembling in fear. Ren Shan, who was riding with Xiao Zueji, once again saw that the Iron Bone faction's disciple was riding on a ferocious wind elemental wolf beast. He couldn't calm down and thought to himself, my fate might change because I joined the Iron Bone faction. Jun Changshao had definitely earned a lot from this trip to Mount Hua. Not to mention the contribution points and various goods, just the 30,000 plus natural spirit stones were enough to make him smile from ear to ear. Sect leader. Returning to the sect, Jun Changshao had just sat down in the main hall when Hall Master Li reported back, during the time you were away, you have mined more than 20,000 spirit stones. Is that so? Jun Changshao grinned. At present, he had already accumulated more than 70,000 natural spirit stones, which would definitely help him and his disciples improve. Moreover, judging from the strange phenomenon that had arisen earlier, the spirit stone vein of Mount Iron Bone meant that it was at least a large and medium-sized vein, and it could continue to be mined for a long time. Based on the mining rate of 3,000 pills per day, that would be more than 1,000,000 pills per year. It was definitely a continuous supply. It wasn't enough. He also had to increase the intensity of his martial arts resources. After returning, Jun Changshao focused all his attention on the middle-grade spirit gathering array. He stayed in his room for 3 whole days before coming out with some success. Back Mountain. Jun Changshao started to upgrade the elementary spirit gathering array. Roughly 4 hours later, not only did he manage to raise his cultivation to intermediate tier, the range of his cultivation base had also expanded significantly, allowing him to accommodate 1,000 disciples. Hoo! Inside the array formation, boundless heaven and earth attributes surged madly into it, and its strength continued to increase. When it was finally fixed, it increased from 30 times the spiritual power to 100 times the spiritual power. Jun Changshao knew that this must be the limit of the middle-grade spirit gathering array. This was because it was very clear on the 32 formations that it could condense 60 times more spiritual energy than the outside world. Due to the recovery of spiritual energy, the Iron Bone's spiritual energy strength had reached 20 times. If it was multiplied by 60 times, it would definitely break through 1,000, not just 100. The system said, the formation of the 32 formations is based on the most ordinary spiritual energy strength, and it also has a certain limit. If it really reaches a level of 1,000 times, it will definitely not be able to withstand it and explode on the spot. 100 times is already not bad. Jun Changshao said contentedly, at least I and my disciples can cultivate here for an hour, which is equivalent to 100 hours of other people's absorption. Iron Bone now had high-level martial arts and various equipment. The only thing it lacked was a higher cultivation. The middle-grade Spirit Gathering Array and the high multiplier Qi Gathering Pill were undoubtedly the key to upgrading. Jun Changshao clapped his hands and said, "Next, let the disciples cultivate steadily for a period of time and step into the martial master level from the martial disciple level." With a cultivation holy land like the middle-grade Spirit Gathering Array, breaking through would be extremely easy. However, stepping into a large realm required a martial cultivator's comprehension of the martial Tao. It was fine. Sect leader Jun had the martial master pill. As long as the disciples stepped into the peak of the martial disciple level, they could easily step into the martial master level after taking it. However, the herbs required were many and very expensive. It was still very unrealistic to mass-produce them at the moment. In the herb garden, Jun Changshao sat in a small pavilion and took out the herbs needed to refine the martial master pill. He said, "Now that the sect has stronger spiritual energy, how long will it take to grow these herbs?" Elder Wei thought for a moment and said, "The fastest is 3 months." He used to say 3 to 5 years, but now it was only 3 months. It was obvious that the recovery of spiritual energy and the transformation of the soil by Peppa Wild Boar had brought significant benefits. "Can it be faster?" Jun Changshao asked. Elder Wei shook his head and said, "With my current ability, 3 months is the limit." "All right." Jun Changshao said, "I will go and get the seeds. Elder Wei, you can first plan an area to plant these herbs." "Okay." Elder Wei said. The herb garden had now expanded from 10 mu to 100 mu. It was no problem to plant herbs of other qualities. "Oh my god!" Su Xiaoma exclaimed in the middle-grade Spirit Gathering Array, "The spiritual energy here is stronger than before." Li Fei said, "It's only been 4 hours and the sect leader has already transformed the array to be so strong. He's a top array master." While the two of them were exclaiming, Li Qingyang, Xiao Ziji, and the others had already sat down cross-legged. The strength of their bodies had been tempered to the extreme in the training tower, so they could break through their cultivation faster. With such strong spiritual energy, coupled with Qi gathering pills and spirit stones, it'll be easy to become a peak martial master. Yi Xingqian thought to himself. After the transformation of the middle-grade Spirit Gathering Array, the disciples who had been in the training tower for a long time put their focus on cultivation. Some people were only at the martial disciple level. With Qi Gathering Pills and Qi Gathering Pills, they could easily advance by a level after cultivating for a day or 2. Whoosh whoosh. Whoosh whoosh. Within the spell formation, disciples were showing signs of advancing to the next level at almost every moment. Jun Changshao was worried that it would affect the cultivation of the other disciples, so he made improvements. He divided the array into many independent spaces and named them cultivation rooms. In this way, the Iron Bone disciples were even more diligent in their cultivation. The disciples who had just entered the sect, such as Shui Rengui and his subordinates, mainly spent their time in the molding room to train their bodies in all aspects. Of course, Sect leader Jun had been observing Shui Rengui and temporarily ordered him to take care of the members of the Wolf Rider Hall. He was not disappointed. Shui Rengui, who was a general, was very good at training. He even studied many cavalry tactics based on the hurricane wolves that the members were riding. Iron Bone Mountain, empty grassland. 500 members of the Wolf Rider Hall were galloping on their hurricane wolves. Under the frequent waving of Shui Rengui's war flag, they were sometimes divided into small groups and sometimes divided into small groups. They were arranged in many square formations. On the mountain peak, Jun Changshao looked at the disciples who had been trained for only a few days and could cooperate so well. He said, "This Shui Rengui is also a talent." Jiang Ye said, "After all, he is a general." Li Luoqiu suggested, "I think it is most suitable for him to be the Wolf Rider Hall's hall master." Managing 2 halls in a row did not give her much time to cultivate. She definitely hoped that the sect leader would quickly find someone qualified to replace her. It's settled then. Jun Changshao said, the Wolf Rider Hall's hall master will be Shueren Gui. The next day, all the disciples were gathered and the first hall master of the Wolf Rider Hall was announced to be Shueren Gui. The subordinates he brought were all assigned to the Wolf Rider Hall, and each of them was given a hurricane wolf. Shua. Shueren Gui stepped forward and took the waist token that represented the hall master's identity. He said solemnly, "Thank you for your trust, sect leader. I will do my best to take care of the Wolf Rider Hall." 3 updates, please vote. Chapter 436. Shueren Gui, who was a general, was definitely more suitable than Li Luoqiu to be the head of the Wolf Riding Hall. After all, the latter was more suited to training assassins and not the Wolf Riding Hall. Of course, the Wolf Riding Hall needed to be developed, and so did the Drizzle Hall. After all, its main purpose was not to train assassins but to train more intelligence personnel. Hall Master Li, in the hall of the Drizzle Hall, Jun Changshao took a sip of tea and said, "We already have spies in the 8 cities of the Azure Sun County. Next, this king plans to continue expanding. It would be best if we can cover the surrounding counties as well." Li Luoqiu loaded the magazine of the AK-47 and glanced at it. "Sect Master, you have to give more people." A charming and enchanting woman holding an AK-47, the scene was really beautiful. To be honest, Sect Master Jun could remain calm in front of such a charming and beautiful woman every day. He was either a gentleman or a gay. Is 100 enough? More or less. Li Luoqiu picked up the AWM sniper rifle and played with it. "You choose the personnel." Jun Changshao said, "You have to train them as soon as possible and send them to the surrounding counties." Okay. After talking about business, Li Luoqiu smiled and said, "Sect Master, can you accompany me to practice shooting?" "Sure." Sect Master Jun said very straightforwardly. Duh. In the open area behind the mountain, Li Luoqiu, who was wearing a red dress and had a perfect figure, was shooting wildly with the AK-47. Because of the recoil, her chest was trembling, and it was a spectacular sight. "Sect Master." After shooting a magazine of bullets, Hall Master Li put away the gun and smiled. "Although this gun is not very powerful, it can shoot continuously. It seems pretty good." "Sect Master, why is your nose bleeding?" "I'm fine." After watching Li Luoqiu practice shooting, Jun Changshao wiped the blood from his nose and returned to the study. Then, he skillfully opened the beginner's shop. The last time he refreshed, he bought the AK-47 and didn't look at it again, so he naturally had to continue looking. There was an item in the 4th row that attracted Jun Changshao's attention. It was called the Seed Incubation Pond. This was in the introduction. Item, Seed Incubating Pond Introduction, a high-tech seed nourishing item. Effect, any seed only needs to soak in the incubation pool for 2 hours. After planting, it can double the planting speed. Note, grain seeds can also increase production. Price, 200 contribution points. I'll go. Jun Changshao said in surprise, this is good stuff. It would take 3 months to grow the herbs required to refine the martial master pill. If the herbs were to be soaked in the incubating pond for 4 hours, wouldn't it only take 1.5 months? And the ingredients for the qi gathering pill. If it could be improved as well, wouldn't it increase from half a month to 7 or 8 days? Buy. Ding. The host has spent 200 contribution points and received a seed incubation pool X1. It has been transferred into the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution points, 47125000. The seed incubation pond was similar to a bathtub. There was a strange liquid in it that was grassland green and exuded a vigorous aura. Jun Changshao threw the herbs required to refine the qi gathering pill into the pond and soaked them for 2 hours. He came to the herb garden and said, "Elder Wei, I have a batch of special seeds here. You can plant them first." Special seeds? Elder Wei took it and felt the aura of the seeds. His face changed and he said, "Sect leader, these seeds are of very high quality." This was high, very high quality. Elder Wei had been planting herbs for so many years, but he had never seen herbs with such a strong aura. In terms of martial cultivation, it was definitely superior. Elder Wei hurriedly chose an excellent herb garden and planted the hundreds of seeds one by one. The next day, the seeds sprouted. Elder Wei said in disbelief, "This growth speed is 1 day faster than before." 2 days of germination became 1 day of germination, which made him realize that if he planted them, the speed would be 2 times faster than before. Elder Wei could also make the herbs grow faster, but the disadvantage was that the seeds could not absorb enough nutrients, causing the spiritual energy of the herbs to weaken. The same was true for the herbs used to refine the martial master pill. If you want to be fast, you can do it. But you have to pay the price of consuming spiritual energy. However, when Elder Wei carefully observed the spiritual energy contained in the sprouts, he found that not only was the spiritual energy weakened, it was even stronger than what he had planted before. Unbelievable, unbelievable. Even the experienced and knowledgeable Elder Wei was shocked by this special seed. How is the effect? In the afternoon, Jun Changshao came to ask. Elder Wei said solemnly, "Sect leader, this kind of special seed takes at most 7 or 8 days to grow. After it matures, the spiritual energy intensity is also very high." Is that so? Jun Changshao laughed. The seeds could quickly grow into herbs, and the spiritual energy intensity was also high. This would undoubtedly allow the disciples to break through their cultivation faster. Jun Changshao placed the seeds in the medicinal hall, and Elder Wei was in charge of soaking them before planting them. After he was done, Li Luoqiu came to see him and handed over 100 selected members to join the drizzle hall. Some of them did not have high cultivation, but they were smart and suitable for intelligence gathering. The spirit gathering array was improved, and the seeds were also improved. The next step was to wait for the disciples to break through their cultivation faster. As for our sect leader Jun, he did not have time to cultivate. After he was done with everything, he left for Huyang City without stopping. He wanted to get more seeds to refine the martial master pill and let the people in the medicinal hall plant them. Speaking of which, it was fortunate that Jun Changshao had the experienced talisman and other supplementary items that allowed him to quickly increase his cultivation. Otherwise, he would be busy with the sect's matters all day and would not have time to cultivate in peace. Sect leader Jun, in the AI family's medicinal hall, Ai Shang handed over a spatial ring and said, "It's hard for me to find the herbs on the list, but there are many seeds." "How much?" Jun Changshao asked. "It's not worth much. Just take it as a gift for sect leader Jun," Ai Shang smiled. "How can I accept it?" Although Jun Changshao said this, he still had the nerve to accept it. However, before he left behind 50 beginner healing pills and 20 body-shaping pills. Sect leader Jun left the medicinal hall and went to the Iron Bone Beast material shop to ask about the business situation before returning to the Iron Bone shop. With the seeds to refine the martial master pill, Elder Wei began to soak and plant them on a large scale. As for the area of the medicinal garden, it had to be expanded from 100 mu to 500 mu. Coo, poor Peppa the wild boar released the earth element and continued to expand the land. Because of the high-intensity work during this period, its body had become thinner. However, it was also getting stronger and stronger. At least it did not look like a lazy pig anymore. 3 days later. Li Qingyang reported as usual, "Sect leader, the junior brothers and sisters have all broken through to the martial disciple realm." The new disciples relied on various resources to successfully become martial disciples. In the entire Iron Bone, except for Yao Menjing who did not practice martial arts, everyone was a martial disciple. Moreover, after the transformation of the body-shaping pills, the molding machine and the training tower, none of them were ordinary martial disciples. Jun Changshao held his chin and said, "It's time to open the sect and continue to recruit disciples." Chapter 437. Now that the spirit-gathering formation had been upgraded, the disciples could quickly break through. Next, what he needed to do was to fill up all the members and trigger a real sect mission to improve the sect. But, Jun Changshao murmured, with the recent frequent recruitment, it will be very difficult to recruit a youth with good aptitude in Azure Sun County. The system said, "Doesn't the host like challenges? If you recruit the lowest aptitude, you will definitely be able to fill it up quickly. Get lost." Jun Changshao said. In the past, he liked challenges and nurtured low-grade youths. However, the key was that he couldn't recruit anyone at that time, so he could only choose low-grade ones. Now, it was different. The sect had enough prestige, and its rank had increased from 7th rate to 6th rate. Moreover, disciples like Li Fei and Tian Qi had been nurtured into talents, which was enough to prove that he had the ability to turn something rotten into something magical. Therefore, the future disciples would definitely have to have a high requirement for spirit roots. Developing a sect was not like opening a welfare institute. Martial cultivators with higher aptitudes would naturally be nurtured faster than those with lower aptitudes. The system said, "Host, you are now as arrogant as you were when we met in the martial world." "Arrogant your sister." Jun Changshao cursed. He held his chin and said, "You can recruit from other counties." The system said, "It's fine for cultivators from other counties to join Iron Bone, but if the host recruits from other counties, it will definitely cause a lot of trouble." Jun Changshao was silent. There were many people in the Falling Star continent, but there were only a few talents. Going to other people's territory to recruit disciples was indeed no different from going to cause trouble. Damn it. Jun Changshao collapsed. Do we really have to recruit low-grade youths and rely on various resources to slowly improve? Sect Master. At this moment, Li Qingyang walked into the main hall and said, "Thank you for your visit, City Lord." "Please." Jun Changshao said. In the main hall. Xie Guankuan sat down and said with a worried expression, "Sect Master Jun, the thing that I have been worried about is finally coming." "What is it?" Jun Changshao asked. Xie Guankuan took out a letter and said, "This is the letter of persuasion sent by the true Yang County chief yesterday." "Oh." Jun Changshao took it and opened the envelope. The general idea was for Qingyang City to surrender. Otherwise, the city would be besieged soon. He. Jun Changshao said, "So open and above board?" Xie Guankuan sighed and said, "According to this Xie's information, Xianyang County's 200,000-strong army has split into two groups and is heading towards Huayang County and Heiang County. If the two counties are breached, wouldn't our Azure Sun County be sandwiched?" Jun Changshao said. "That's right." Xie Guankuan said. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and said, "This Xianyang County's county chief is truly an ambitious and ruthless person." Xie Guankuan continued, "The true Sun County has sent 200,000 soldiers this time. The White Tiger Legion led by General Bai Ruehu not only has a high cultivation, but they are also well equipped. They are the elites of the elites. If they come, our Azure Sun County will be in danger." "How long will it take for them to get here?" Jun Changshao asked. Xie Guankuan said, "If Huayang County and Heiang County choose to resist, it will take about a year and a half. If they choose to surrender, Xianyang County's army will march straight in and reach Azure Sun County within a month." "A month, huh?" Jun Changshao said, "Mayor Xie, how many soldiers does Azure Sun City have?" 50,000. Xie Guankuan said. Azure Sun City had a population of 3,600,000. However, those who were qualified to enter the battlefield were at least martial disciples. Therefore, there were not many of them. Moreover, Xinjiang County had sent their elites. If ordinary first and second grade martial disciples were to enter the battlefield, it would be the same as sending them to their deaths. Jun Changshao frowned and said, "That's a bit too little." He was not an expert in this kind of military matters. Therefore, he called Shui Rengui over and informed him of the situation. He asked, "Hall Master Shui, what do you think?" Shui Rengui frowned and said, "This Xinjiang County's Bai Ruihu seems to be one of the top 10 generals in Yangzhou." "That's right," Xie Guankuan said. Jun Changshao was speechless. Not only was it an elite army, but it was also one of the top 10 generals. Xinjiang County's invasion this time showed that they were determined to win. Shui Rengui said, "Based on the current situation, we can only choose to defend to the death. As for how long we can defend, it depends on when the other party chooses to attack." It was very pessimistic. However, there was no other way. The disparity in military strength was too great. It was too difficult to contend against the elite army of Xinjiang County. Sigh. Xie Guankuan let out a long sigh. His eyes were filled with determination as he said, "Even if I have to sacrifice every single one of my soldiers, I will defend Azure Sun City to the death." His home was not to be invaded. Surrender? Only a coward would do such a thing. Xie Guankuan left. He had to prepare for the upcoming war. He had already made up his mind to live and die with Azure Sun City. "Hall Master Shui," Jun Changshao said, "is there no better way?" Shui Rengui shook his head and said, "Sect Master, Azure Sun County is only a grade 9 city. If we are targeted by a large county, we will only be exterminated. The big fish would eat the small fish." This was an unchanging fact. Jun Changshao sat on the chair and supported his chin with his hands. He said with a firm gaze, "My iron bone is in Azure Sun City. Naturally, I cannot stand by and do nothing." Shui Rengui said, "Sect Master, we are a powerful sect. We don't have to participate in the war. My iron bone disciples are mostly from Azure Sun City. This is their home and their loved ones. How can we watch as it is invaded by foreign enemies?" Huaxia had experienced 100 years of humiliation. Many men had shed their blood for their home. Although Jun Changshao was born in a prosperous era, he knew that every man had a responsibility when his country was in trouble. Now that he had transmigrated to another world, he was not only a man of Azure Sun City, but also a man of Huaxia. When his home was invaded, he would definitely share it and not choose to live an ignoble existence. "Understood." Shui Rengui said solemnly, "If Sect Master wants to defend Azure Sun City, I believe that we can expand the members of Wolf Rider Hall and form a cavalry division. We can catch them off guard and catch them off guard." It was impossible to directly confront Xinjiang County's army. Therefore, they could only rely on their strengths. A Wolf Rider Hall equipped with hurricane wolves was undoubtedly Iron Bone's strength. It was also the most suitable for killing enemies on the battlefield. As long as they had perfect coordination, it would not be a problem for them to fight 100 enemies, let alone 10 enemies. In the era of cold weapons, the strongest army was definitely cavalry. With a strong cavalry, they would definitely be successful. In the past, the Mongol Empire had almost conquered Europe by relying on cavalry. Although the Song dynasty had a strong economy, they had lost the 13 prefectures of Yenyun and did not have a suitable horse farm. They were unable to form a strong cavalry division and were suppressed by Liao, Xixia, Jin, and Mongolia. Of course, this cavalry division mainly relied on horses. Jun Changxiao's Wolf Rider Hall mainly relied on hurricane wolves. The two were not on the same level. Shui Rengui was confident that as long as they had a certain number of members and went through strict training, they would be able to create a strong cavalry division. Jun Changxiao said, "There are only about 1,000 hurricane wolves. I can only equip Wolf Rider Hall with another 500 disciples." He had brought the hurricane wolves back to the sect in the 10,000 Beast Mountain range to prepare for a rainy day. It was reasonable that they would be of use in today's war. Shui Rengui thought for a while and said, a cavalry division of 1,000 people, as long as they are well trained, it will not be a problem to fight against an army of tens of thousands. What if they are equipped with excellent equipment? Jun Changshao asked. Shui Rengui said, then they will be like a tiger that has grown wings. I will gather the disciples. You go and pick 500. Jun Changshao added, however, time is limited. They must be trained within a month. Shui Rengui said confidently, my sect's disciples have strong bodies and a good foundation. They will definitely train faster than ordinary men. Not to mention a month, half a month will be enough. Chapter 438. On the training field, the Iron Bone disciples were gathered and Shui Rengui selected them one by one. To be honest, with all kinds of resources, the Iron Bone disciples' foundation was really good. Although some of them were slightly thin, when they tore off their clothes and revealed their muscles, they were definitely big. If it weren't for the fact that there were too few hurricane wolves, Shui Rengui would have chosen all of them to create more wolf cavalry. After the selection was made, Jun Changshao gave each of them a hurricane wolf and began the most professional military training. Their bodies were good and their foundation was solid. The main point of the training was how to make them form perfect cooperation faster. At first, Shui Rengui was a little embarrassed. But after the training began, he unexpectedly found that these disciples' cooperation was surprisingly good. Most of them played football every day, and over time, they naturally formed a tacit understanding. For example, Su Xiaoma and Li Fei. The two of them didn't need to rely on voice transmission at all. With just a glance, they could make an exquisite 2-to-1 cooperation. After the preliminary training, Shui Rengui exclaimed, they are all good seedlings. Good foundation and strong consciousness. If he couldn't train them in a short period of time, how could he have the face to be the Wolf Cavalry Hall's Hall Master? Shui Rengui even dared to boldly predict that once these 1,000 members were trained, they would definitely be incomparably sharp spears, invincible and invincible. Since we want to build a cavalry regiment, we definitely can't lack equipment. In the study, Jun Changshao murmured, close combat cold-edge sword, long-range overlord spear, strong iron shield, soft silk armor, all must be equipped. If he wanted to build a cavalry regiment, he had to build the most elite ones. Of course. More importantly, he had to have hard strength. The disciples' cultivation must be improved in the shortest time possible. It's best to choose to defend Heian County and Huaiyang County to the death. This will buy more time for my iron bone to become stronger. Jun Changshao murmured. Of course. If they chose to surrender, it would be enough to kill them in a month. We can't rely too much on the Wolf Cavalry Hall. The strength of the other disciples must also break through in the shortest time possible. Jun Changshao murmured, if we can give 40 or 50 days, that would be perfect. Why? Because at that time, the materials for refining the Martial Master Pill would be available. At that time, he would definitely be able to create even more Martial Masters. You have many soldiers and generals. My apologies, my Iron Bone disciples are all Martial Masters and ride Hurricane Wolves. There were also all kinds of weapons and equipment. Although they were inferior in terms of quantity, their combat prowess was not necessarily inferior. Hall Master Li. Jun Changshao summoned Li Luoqiu and said, order the members of Drizzle Hall to go to the major cities to purchase ores and materials. They must be sent to the sect as soon as possible. A large amount of equipment would definitely require a large amount of materials. Yes. AI. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, if there is no limit to the number of AK-47s that can be purchased, and all the disciples are equipped with them, they can stand on the city walls of Qingyang City and attack anyone who comes. That would be awesome. The system said, Even if there are no restrictions, with the host's contribution points, it's impossible for everyone to have one. Fuck, I was just thinking about it. Can you stop hitting me? Jun Changshao collapsed. The system said, I'm not hitting the host. I'm just telling the host to recognize reality and stop daydreaming. Jun Changshao was too lazy to pay attention to it. He continued to think about how to deal with Xinjiang County's attack. When he thought about AK-47s, he thought about sniper rifles. Right. Jun Changshao slapped his forehead and said, although there is a limit to the number of AK-47s, there is no limit to sniper rifles. We can buy more and equip the Drizzle Hall to set up ambushes on the city walls. It's not a bad idea to be responsible for sniping important people, 500 contribution points for one. The system said. Jun Changshao said, as long as we can defend against foreign enemies and protect our home, I'm willing to spend all my contribution points. Ding. The host has spent 1,000 contribution points. Godly Modified AWM Sniper Rifle X2. It has been transported into the space ring. Ding. Sect contribution points, 37125000. Although Sect leader Jun spoke with great generosity, when it came to action, he only bought 2 sniper rifles. Including Xiao Ziji and Li Luoqiu's, Iron Bone already had 4 AK-47s. After that, he bought 4 silencers, 4 8x scopes, 4 extended capacity magazines, and 4 magically modified armor. Although there were many things, they were not expensive. They all cost 20 contribution points, so he only spent 320 contribution points in total. Sect leader. At this time, Li Luoqiu, who had just left, walked in and said, I've just received news from all the cities. All the ores and materials are out of stock. Out of stock. Jun Changshao was surprised. Li Luoqiu explained, all the cities in Xinjiang County have received letters of persuasion to surrender. The city lords are busy recruiting soldiers and purchasing ores to forge weapons. I see. Jun Changshao understood and continued, although Xinjiang County's level is not high, the city lords are all unyielding men. They have no intention of surrendering. Once a city falls, it will become a lowly person, or even a slave to the victor. Those with courage will naturally defend it to the end. Li Luoqiu said. Jun Changshao said, send people to buy ores and materials from other counties. It doesn't matter if the price is a little higher. Understood. Li Luoqiu was about to leave. Wait. Jun Changshao said, I still have 2 sniper rifles with me. Equip them with Drizzle Hall. Li Luoqiu smiled and said, Sect leader, are you saying that you want Drizzle Hall to set up an ambush in the dark and use the sniper rifles to assassinate important enemy figures? That is the plan. Jun Changshao said. Li Luoqiu took the AWM sniper rifle and said, I will choose suitable members. After everything was settled, Jun Changshao focused on cultivation. He hoped to break through to the peak of Wuzong in the shortest time possible. Shui Rengui trained the wolf riders while Li Luoqiu trained the members to use the sniper rifles. The disciples of the sect also stepped up their cultivation. The atmosphere in Iron Bone's airspace was slightly solemn. A few days later, all kinds of ores and materials were sent over from different counties. Because of the urgent need to forge equipment, sect leader Jun bought them all at a price higher than the market price. He did not lack money. Ding. 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 All kinds of weapons and equipment were forged in the forging pavilion. Time passed, and it never returned. Half a month later. Under Shui Rengui's training day and night, the 1,000 members of Wolf Rider Hall not only underwent professional military training, but their cultivation also improved greatly. The members of Drizzle Hall had already mastered the AWM sniper rifle and could accurately hit enemies from 1,000 meters away. With the support of resources such as the Spirit Gathering Formation, the cultivation of Iron Bone disciples also increased rapidly. The average cultivation had reached the level of a rank 6 martial disciple. This was because most of them had poor aptitudes. If they were slightly higher and reached the middle rank, they could easily break through to the peak of martial disciple. More than 10 days passed just like that. The overall strength of Iron Bone disciples increased from rank 6 to rank 9. They cultivated very hard and were constantly using the spirit gathering formation. Therefore, more than 20 days of cultivation was equivalent to 200 or 300 days of cultivation for others. With high-intensity spirit chi and the replenishment of spirit-gathering pills. It was not an exaggeration to go from a low-level martial disciple to a rank 9 martial disciple in 200 or 300 days. Li Qingyang and the others were also cultivating. Relying on the majestic spirit chi and various resources, they all reached the level of peak martial master. This was a threshold. Whether one could break through to Wuzong depended not on their attributes, but on their understanding of martial arts. Whoosh! In the cultivation room, a surge of majestic energy whizzed out. Jun Changshao was in the middle of it. Pieces of dim spirit stones were scattered on the ground, and his whole body was surrounded by the aura of advancement. About an hour later, he successfully stepped into the peak of Wuzong from rank 9. In the past, he relied on a large number of spirit stones and the 30 times spirit gathering formation to advance 2 ranks in a short time. Now, he needed more than 20 days and 100 times more spirit chi to break through to the peak. It was clear that the higher the rank, the harder it was to cultivate. Ding! Host has broken through to the peak of Wuzong. Requirement met. Epic level mission activated. Jun Changshao opened his eyes and murmured, as expected, every time I reach the highest level of a rank, the epic level mission will be activated. 3 updates, please vote. Chapter 439. Jun Changshao opened the data panel out of habit and clicked on the epic mission. The content was epic mission. For mission details, Jinyang County is under attack, Qingyang County is in danger. Host must lead the disciples to defend Qingyang City successfully. Mission failure, Qingyang City is breached. Mission reward. The core of this epic mission was to defend Qingyang City. This is too simple. Jun Changshao was speechless. You should at least give me a goal and let me know how to complete the mission. Now, all I have to do is defend Qingyang City. No. Recalling his previous experience, Jun Changshao muttered, there must be something hidden in this mission. As for what was hidden, he had no way of knowing. Ask the system. It would be strange if it could tell him. The system was gratified. I like how the host knows his own limits. Scram. Jun Changshao rubbed his chin and muttered, seems like I have to participate in the epic mission. As a sect, he could choose to close his doors and not participate in the secular war. However, now that he had reached the peak of Wuzong and was faced with an epic mission, he had to participate, whether it was for his homeland or for the reward. Fortunately, I am defending. If I had to attack, I would be screwed. Jun Changshao said. Wait. There was another problem. The 4th epic mission did not give a specific time. Jun Changshao frowned. I can only wait for Jinyang County's army to attack and defend Qingyang City. That's right. The system said. Jun Changshao scratched his head and said, if Heiyang County and Huaiyang County stubbornly resist for a year or 2, wouldn't I be stuck at the peak of Wuzong for a year or 2? The system said, therefore, the host should pray that they choose to surrender quickly. That way, Jinyang County will be free to attack Qingyang County. Jun Changshao curled his lips and said, I can't wait for them to resist for a while and have more time to develop. The mission condition was to defend Qingyang City. Now that the Jinyang County's army was charging over, even if they managed to hold on, they would definitely have to pay a hefty price. If Iron Bone was given more time and the disciples broke through to a higher level, not only would they be able to hold the fort easily, but they would also be able to reduce the casualty rate. Kill. On the spacious grassland of the Iron Bone Mountain, 1,000 members of the Wolf Rider Hall held Overlord's spears in their right hands as they rode their hurricane wolves and charged forward. Zhong Yi was at the forefront. This loyal and righteous person was selected to be a member of the Wolf Rider Hall. Because of his high realm and his hard work in training, he was recommended by Shui Rengui and appointed by Jun Changshao as the commander of the cavalry of wolves. Although it hadn't been long since he joined the Iron Bone sect, Zhong Yi, who possessed a high-grade spiritual root, had already reached the level of a 9th-grade martial master. In the past, he had been wandering outside, risking his life for resources. Who would have thought that he would be able to break through so quickly in such a short time? Zhong Yi had completely fused with the Iron Bone. If he was asked to go into battle, he would definitely go through fire and water without hesitation. Shua! On the mountain peak, Shui Rengui waved his war banner. Change formation! Zhong Yi shouted loudly. Behind him, the members of the cavalry of wolves gathered together like a river. From high up in the sky, they changed from scattered to an indestructible spear form. Sect Master! Shui Rengui said, "This is the linear spear formation that I've researched. It can ruthlessly tear apart the opponent's defense line." Jun Changshao nodded and said, "Very professional." Shui Rengui said, "If it's on the battlefield, I'm confident that I can break through any defensive formation and throw the enemy into disarray." His confidence came from the fact that the members of the cavalry of wolves had strong cultivation, good teamwork, and excellent equipment. Even if it was a 3rd-grade 5th-grade martial disciple army made up of tens of thousands of people, they could still defeat the enemy. Jun Changshao said, "If the Xinjiang County's army attacks, our cavalry of wolves should be able to give them a surprise." However, Shui Rengui frowned and said, "I'm worried that Bai Ruihu's army will be equipped with exploding demon crossbows. These kinds of weapons with great destructive power will cause great trouble for the cavalry of wolves." Jun Changshao waved his hand lightly and took out the exploding demon crossbow he had obtained from the evil cultivators of the Demon Channeling Palace. He said, "You're talking about this thing?" Shui Rengui said, "That's right. How could the sect master have something like this?" "I've sinned." Jun Changshao shouted down, "Raise your unbreakable iron shield." "I'll try shooting an arrow." Xiao Ziji summoned the unbreakable iron shield and said, "Sect Master, do you want to activate the barrier?" "No need." As he spoke, Jun Changshao pulled the bowstring and stuck the exploding demon crossbow in it. Shui Rengui's expression changed slightly. He said, "Sect Master, the power of this exploding demon crossbow is comparable to that of an ordinary peak martial master. The iron shield won't be able to block it." Whoosh! Sect Master Jun pulled the trigger. The exploding demon crossbow instantly turned into a streak of light and shot out. Boom! There was a loud explosion, and a gust of wind swept up. When the smoke and dust settled, Xiao Zui was still standing in his original position. The surface of the sturdy iron shield in front of him had only been charred black by the bombardment. Shui Rengui's expression was sluggish. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He knew that the sect master had equipped the members with many pieces of equipment, but he never thought that a single iron shield could actually block the attack of 50,000 kilograms of exploding demon crossbow. Xiao Ziji said, "Sect master, the unbreakable iron shield should be able to block 4 or 5 arrows." Hall Master Shui. Jun Changshao smiled and said, "If I'm not wrong, the cost of these arrows with explosive power shouldn't be low, right?" Shui Rengui said, "1 arrow costs 10,000 taels. In other words, every arrow shot is equivalent to shooting out a man-made spirit stone. I don't think that Xinjiang County can be used to shoot ordinary wooden arrows for fun," Jun Changshao said. "Impossible." Shui Rengui said firmly, "Even if it's a county of a higher level, it won't be used to shoot wooden arrows for fun. After all, the cost is too high." Jun Changshao said, "So, the members of Wolf Rider Hall have the unbreakable iron shield. Can the exploding demon crossbows cause any trouble?" No. Shui Rengui completely relaxed. With shields with extremely high defense, the highly mobile Wolf Rider Hall would only be able to unleash higher combat power. Furthermore, Jun Changshao said, if they really dare to take out the exploding demon crossbows, I guarantee that they won't have a chance to shoot. I'll first use a chain explosion. Chain explosion? Shui Rengui's face was blank. Hall Master Li, Jun Changshao said, show Hall Master Shui the results of your Drizzle Hall's recent training. Okay. Li Luoqiu snapped her fingers. In the distance, two members of Drizzle Hall who had been ready for a long time crouched on the ground and set up the AWM sniper rifles in front of them. After a simple check, they decisively pressed the trigger. Whoosh! Whoosh! A slight sound of wind breaking could be heard. Two streams of light flew over at an extremely fast speed and accurately hit a fist-sized rock in the distance, instantly shattering it. When Shui Rengui saw this, he immediately widened his eyes. The distance between the two disciples and the rock was at least 5,000 feet, about 1,500 meters, yet they could accurately hit the rock. This was simply extremely valiant. Crack! Crack! The two members pulled the bolt and loaded the bullets. Li Tian walked over and threw the two rocks into the air. Whoosh! Whoosh! As they fell, the bullets were fired again. Bang! Bang! The two rocks were instantly shattered. The corner of Shui Rengui's mouth twitched violently. Shattering the flying rocks with such precision, it was too accurate. Hall Master Shui. Jun Changshao said with a smile, if we place the members of Drizzle Hall in a secret place and the other party uses the exploding demon crossbows, wouldn't it be equivalent to collective suicide? Shui Rengui imagined a large number of enemy soldiers setting up the exploding demon crossbows and loading the exploding demon crossbows, only to have the arrowheads hit by small streams of light. This was definitely a chain explosion. Sect Master. Shui Rengui said seriously, if they dare to use it, they're definitely digging their own graves. Jun Changshao said, if the strength of our Iron Bone disciples is a little stronger, for example, if all of them break through to the martial master level, do you think we can defend Qingyang City? All of them break through to the martial master level. There were more than 2,500 disciples in the sect. If they really reached the martial master level, they would form an extremely terrifying combat power. With his experience as a general, Shui Rengui replied, I'm 100% confident. Jun Changshao thought to himself, it's best if Heian County and Huayang County can delay for a while until the herbs to refine the martial master pill are ripe. It wouldn't take too long, about 20 days. If the Azure Sun County fell, he and his family would lose all their equal rights and would be labeled as lowly commoners or slaves for generations. It was gratifying. The 8 city lords of the 8 cities had the same attitude in the face of the impending war. If the city lived, the people lived. If the city died, the people died. Jun Changshao said, although the county chief of Azure Sun County is a hands-off boss, the city lords he selected are all iron-blooded men. Sect leader. Li Luoqiu came to report, Huayang City's Qingling City has been lost. Because of the city lords' resistance, Xinjiang County's army entered the city and slaughtered more than 1 million civilians. Jun Changshao frowned. Shui Rengui said, is the general who attacked Qingling City called Miao Hui? Yes, Li Luoqiu said. Shui Rengui said with a cold gaze, it is indeed him. Jun Changshao said, Hall Master Shui, you know him? Shui Rengui said angrily, Miao Hui is one of the generals under Bai Ruihu. His nickname is Executioner. He is violent and temperamental. He often takes pleasure in slaughtering people. Although I am not from Yangzhou, I have heard of his evil name. Executioner. Jun Changshao sneered and said, if he dares to come to the Azure Sun County, I will make him a soul under my blade. At this moment, Li Luoqiu received a message from his subordinate, Sect leader. The latest news is that after Miao Hui attacked Qingling City, he brought 10,000 cavalry and is heading toward the Azure Sun County from the direction of Death Valley. This is really what you want comes true. Shui Rengue hurried to the sand table in the hall of the Wolf Rider Hall and said, according to the enemy's route, Sect leader, Miao Hui wants to rely on the mobility of the cavalry to attack Shouyang City. Jun Changshao said, can we deal with them? Shui Rengue pondered for a moment and said seriously, my Wolf Rider Hall can easily annihilate them. If the enemy had a large number of people, he might be afraid. However, 10,000 cavalry was definitely easy to deal with. Jun Changshao rubbed his nose and said coldly, the best defense is offense. Since the true Sun County dares to invade our Azure Sun County, we will make sure they don't return. Ta ta ta. In the forest of Death Valley, 10,000 cavalrymen of the true Sun County were galloping. The leader was one of Bai Ruihu's generals, Miao Hui. General. Along the way, a deputy general smiled and said, if we suddenly change our path and attack Azure Sun County, we will definitely be able to take down a city easily. General, this is a brilliant move. Another deputy general flattered. The burly and ferocious-looking Miao Hui sneered, even if I attack openly, the Azure Sun County, which is even weaker than the Huayang County, won't be able to resist. From his words, one could tell that he didn't put the Azure Sun County in his eyes. The lowest grade in the Falling Star continent was the 9th grade, and the Azure Sun County was undoubtedly the weakest among the 9 grades. As a general of a large county, it was normal for him to not put the Azure Sun County in his eyes. General. A deputy general smiled and said, if we take down Qingling City, we will attack without stopping. If we take down Shouyang City, we should at least let our brothers have some fun, right? Miao Hui said, if we win this battle, you can choose any woman in the city. Yes. Everyone replied in unison with battle intent flickering in their eyes. Hiss hiss hiss, suddenly, the warhorse came to an abrupt halt and neighed as though it was frightened. The sudden change caught the soldiers off guard and they almost fell off their horses. What's going on? Miao Hui shouted. General. A deputy general pointed at a hill in the distance and said, there are wolves. Wolves? Miao Hui and his men looked in that direction. A few hundred feet away, a burly wolf with a blue whirlpool under its feet was half-squatting on the hill. This is... Miao Hui was overjoyed. A hurricane wolf. Ha ha ha. The deputy general said, to think that you would encounter a rare wind-type beast in the wilderness. General, you are really lucky. If it was a normal rogue cultivator, they would be scared out of their wits when they saw a hurricane wolf. However, Miao Hui was overjoyed. After all, he had a full cavalry division with him. How could he be afraid of a wolf? Quick! He hurriedly ordered, don't let it. Whoosh! As soon as he finished speaking, a weak sound of wind breaking could be heard. Bang! The deputy general next to him had a hole in his head, and he fell off his horse with a plop. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! Whoosh! Whoosh! At this moment, 2 more sounds of wind breaking could be heard. The deputy generals next to Miao Hui had their heads pierced again, and they fell off their horses. One of them was the one who said he wanted to have some fun. Now, he could have some fun in the 18 levels of hell. Ka ka ka. The 2 Drizzle Hall members who were hiding more than 2,000 meters away pulled the bolt and reloaded again. They said telepathically, Hall Master, targets 1, 2, and 3 have been killed. Shui Rengue's mouth twitched slightly. This shooting distance was even further than the previous test at Mount Iron Bone. It was amazing to hit the target with 1 shot. Swoosh! After a slight pause, the battle flag was waved. Awoo! Awoo! A series of bone-chilling wolf howls resounded in the Death Valley area. Swoosh! 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 In an instant, thousands of Wolf Rider Hall members riding hurricane wolves appeared on the hill in an orderly manner. Swoosh! Zhong Yi leaped up and landed on the wolf beast that Miao Kuai and the others had seen earlier. He brandished his jet-black overlord spear and held it horizontally in front of him as he shouted, with the determination to break through the enemy lines, "There is only death. Kill." Chapter 441. With the determination to break through the enemy lines, only death awaits. When these words came out from the mouth of the affectionate and righteous Zhong Yi, they emitted an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. Kill! Kill! In the wilderness of Death Valley, battle cries shook the sky. If the camera panned to the sky and looked down, it could be seen that under Zhong Yi's lead, 1,000 members of the Wolf Rider Hall were riding hurricane wolves, rushing down the hill like a tide. The scene. It was quite shocking. Awoo! Awoo! The howls of the wolves echoed in the wilderness, causing the 10,000 warhorses to panic. If not for the soldiers forcefully suppressing them, they would have fled in fright. Although these warhorses had undergone professional training and had experienced battles on the battlefield, they would definitely turn into soft-footed shrimps in the face of ferocious wolf beasts. There is no suspense. Jun Changshao stood on a huge rock in the distance. When he saw the Xinjiang County cavalry in a mess, his eyes were filled with disappointment. Sending the Wolf Rider Hall to intercept and kill was considered the first operation after the formal training. However, the opponents were too weak. Before they could even attack, they were already frightened to death. It was not that the Xinjiang County cavalry was weak, it was that the Wolf Riders were too strong. Who else in the Falling Star continent could form a 1,000-man Wolf Rider group with a rare wind-type beast? General! General! The only remaining deputy general tried to stabilize the frightened warhorse and said with a trembling voice, It's a pack of hurricane wolves. How is that possible? Miao Hui's expression changed greatly. He was not shocked by the sudden appearance of the hurricane wolves, but by the fact that these rare wolf beasts could actually carry so many people on their backs. Miao Hui could understand if some people were lucky enough to subdue the hurricane wolves. However, it was impossible for 1,000 people to subdue 1,000 hurricane wolves. Wait! Iron Bone of the Qingyang County seemed to be riding hurricane wolves as well. As someone who spent all his time in the military camp, he had also heard about the recent happenings in the Jianghu. However, he only treated it as news and did not take it to heart. Now that there was a large number of hurricane wolves carrying people on their backs, he could not help but wonder if they were Iron Bone's disciples. Whoosh! Suddenly, a streak of light shot over at an extremely fast speed, accurately killing the last deputy general. Xiao Ziji, who was hiding in a tree in the distance, quickly pulled the bolt and reloaded. He aimed his gun at the shocked Miao Hui. Even though the crosshair of the 8x scope had locked onto Miao Hui's head, he did not pull the trigger. The sect leader had said that he wanted the head. A bullet through the brain would spoil the beauty a little. With the Wolf Rider Hall and the hidden snipers, Miao Kuai, who was leading tens of thousands of cavalrymen to attack from 1,000 miles away, no matter how one looked at it, it looked like he was delivering his head on a silver platter. Shua! 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 On the other side, under the leadership of Zhong Yi, 1,000 members of the Wolf Rider Hall had already formed a spear formation and were thrusting fiercely. The Xinjiang County soldier, who was trying his best to control his warhorse, had no time to make any defensive arrangements before his chest was ruthlessly pierced by the long spear. Boom! Boom! One after another, the warhorses were sent flying by the burly hurricane wolves. Some of them crashed into the rocks and died on the spot, bleeding from their orifices. To be exact. This was the clash between tanks and cavalry, it was a complete and utter domination. Kill! Kill! After the members of the Wolf Rider Hall ruthlessly tore through the defensive line, they waved the Overlord's spears in their hands with all their might, knocking the surrounding cavalrymen off their horses. Puchi! Puchi! The hurricane wolves under them waved their forelimbs, their sharp claws cutting through the air and directly chopping the soldiers who had just landed into 8 pieces. Although the scene was bloody, it also showed the cruelty of the battlefield. In a battle between 2 armies, no one would consider mercy, and no one would care whether the methods used were cruel or not. Because only by killing could one survive. Kill! Kill! The members of the Wolf Rider Hall, whose average cultivation was at the 9th grade martial disciple level, wielded Overlord spears and had hurricane wolves. When facing a group of soldiers riding on frightened warhorses, it could only be described as a massacre. In the beginning, Jun Changshao was still worried that there would be casualties. However, when he saw his own side members killing the Xinjiang County soldiers and instantly suppressing them, he secretly heaved a sigh of relief. Damn it! He had overestimated the strength of Xinjiang County. After learning from Mayor Xia that the battle would affect Xinjiang County, Sect leader Jun had been busy and prepared for the past month. In the end, the first battle was so easy. To be honest, he had really overestimated it. Not to mention sending his disciples, even if he sent the hurricane wolves, he could easily finish them off. After all, their average strength was at the 5th grade martial disciple level. The 5th grade martial disciple level was equivalent to a 5th grade martial master. 10,000 cavalrymen of 5th and 6th grade martial disciple level had no chance of winning against 1,000 5th grade hurricane wolves. Retreat! Retreat! Miao Hui shouted in fear. The defense line was completely torn apart, and the soldiers were utterly defeated. At this time, they could not make any effective counterattack. Retreating was the wisest choice. However, when facing a group of wind-type ferocious beasts that were known for their speed, could they retreat? The answer was no. Not only could his subordinates not retreat, but he also could not retreat. This was because Zhong Yi had already locked onto him and was charging at him with the Overlord's spear. Shua! Miao Hui immediately took out his saber and slashed out a powerful saber energy. As one of the generals of the White Tiger Corps, his strength was not bad. He had already reached the level of a 1st grade wuzong. Bang Zhong Yi's spear was like a dragon, directly breaking the saber energy. Then, he jumped up from the wolf's back, poured his spiritual energy into the tip of the spear, and stabbed at Miao Hui. How is this possible? Miao Hui was shocked. This guy's strength was only at the peak of a martial master, but he could easily break his saber energy. Ding! Without any time to think, Miao Hui placed his saber in front of him and blocked the tip of the spear with the blade. Plop! The warhorse under him could not bear the force and collapsed on the ground. Shua! Miao Hui was also sent flying from the horse's back. He staggered and fell on the ground. His eyes were filled with shock. Are you a martial master or a wuzong? This was a battlefield, not a tea party. Naturally, Zhong Yi would not waste time with him. He used the cloud-treading steps and quickly approached him. Suddenly, rays of light shot out from his spear. Ding! 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 Miao Hui suppressed his shock and blocked left and right with his saber. Because the opponent's strength was too strong, his arm was immediately numb. No! This guy's strength is not weaker than mine. It will be troublesome if I continue to fight him. Miao Hui quickly used his movement skill and fled into the depths of the forest. He could not even protect himself. He did not have time to care about his subordinates who were surrounded by the wolf riders. I have sinned. Jun Changshao said telepathically, don't let this guy get away. Whoosh! Xiao Ziji, who had already taken aim, pulled the trigger decisively. The bullet turned into a ray of light and shot into the depths of the forest. Miao Hui, who had just entered the forest, heard the sound of the wind and immediately knew that something was wrong. Just as he was about to dodge, his thigh was hit by the bullet and he was sent flying. Shwa! Before he could even scream in pain, Zhong Yi caught up with him and stood in front of him. The dazzling tip of the spear was already pressed against his neck. Puchi! Puchi! In the area behind him, the members of the Wolf Riders were still killing each other. The tens of thousands of Xinjiang County's cavalrymen were killed one by one. Unable to control their horses, these cavalrymen were no better than foot soldiers. 1 hour later, corpses were scattered everywhere. Blood gathered into a river. At this point, the cavalry regiment of Xinjiang County that had rushed over thousands of miles had become a sacrifice. Plop! The injured Miao Hui was thrown by Zhong Yi at Jun Changxiao's feet. When he saw the cavalry regiment that had been completely destroyed, his face immediately became abnormally ferocious. Executioner! Shui Rengui stood in front of him and said indifferently, "You have killed so many innocent people. It's time to pay with your life." Miao Hui raised his head with difficulty and said in horror, You are the 5-star General Shui Rengui of Zhongzuan State." Chapter 442. 5-star General. Jun Changxiao looked at Shui Rengui in surprise. Although he did not understand the military ranks in this world, it was definitely awesome on Earth. The system explained, in the Falling Star continent, a 5-star general is definitely considered a famous general. Is he as powerful as Bai Ruihu? Jun Changxiao asked. The system said, according to the information I received, although Bai Ruihu is one of the top 10 generals in southwest Yangzhou, his military rank is only a 3-star general. Fuck! Jun Changxiao said in surprise, then Hall Master Shui is awesome. Not just awesome, but extremely awesome. In the entire Falling Star continent, there were no more than 20 generals who could obtain the 5-star general rank. This was not only an honor, but also a recognition of strength. You know me. Shui Rengui was very surprised. Miao Kuai said, back then, I followed General Bai to Zhongzhuang province. I was fortunate enough to witness General Shui training the Ren army at the field. He spoke very quickly, obviously hoping to survive with this thin layer of relationship. I see. Shui Rengui said this and did not say anything else. Kill him, Jun Changxiao said indifferently. General Shui. Miao Kuai's expression changed drastically. Please spare my life on account that we are both soldiers. Shui Rengui turned around and said, a soldier's duty is to protect the country and fight on the battlefield, not to kill innocent people like you. We'll talk about it later. He paused and said with a slightly desolate figure, I'm no longer a soldier, and I don't deserve to be one. General Shui, Puchie's sword flashed, and Miao Kuai's head rolled on the ground. His eyes were wide open. He did not expect to die like this. An executioner who killed people like Scything Flax deserved to be beheaded. Ding! Annihilated the cavalry led by the White Tiger Army's valiant General Miao Kuai. Meets the hidden criteria. Epic mission completion rate, 10%. Host received 500 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 3892500. After hearing the notification, Jun Changxiao thought to himself, sure enough, on the surface, it's to defend Qingyang City, but there are hidden criteria, 10% would give him 500 contribution points. If he were to complete 100%, wouldn't he get 5,000 contribution points? If he were to exceed it by a little more, the final reward would surely be even better. Come on, come on. Jun Changxiao's eyes burned with passion as he said, Xinjiang County's army, hurry up and kill your way over. 1,000 men had eliminated 10,000 cavalrymen. Although it seemed like they had won with a numerical disadvantage, it was actually the result of their mounts, equipment, and cultivation. What was even more impressive was that none of the members of the Wolf Rider Hall had died. None of them were even injured. Miao Hui's 10,000 cavalrymen had been controlling their frightened warhorses the entire time, so they had no time to counterattack. Jun Changshao shook his head and said, "It's not challenging at all." He liked the kind of plot that often described the grandeur and cruelty of war in 3 to 5 chapters. Sect leader Shui Rengui said, "The cavalry division led by Miao Hui can't be considered the elites of the White Tiger Legion. You must not let your guard down." "Yes." Jun Changshao nodded. However, they had only fought one match, so they definitely wouldn't get carried away. The cavalry division was completely wiped out. As usual, everyone began to skillfully loot the corpses. There weren't any martial arts resources or silver in the interspatial rings of the soldiers, but they were all equipped with demon explosive crossbows and 2 demon explosive arrows. At that time, if they had been able to stabilize their frightened warhorses, they would have definitely used these extremely lethal weapons. Fortunately, they were useless. This was because Xiao Ziji and the 2 members of the Drizzle Hall, who were hiding in the dark, were definitely going to show off their skills again. It's a big county after all. There's nothing valuable here, Jun Changshao said. Shui Rengui said, "Once on the battlefield, life and death are no longer in our control. Soldiers won't bring martial arts resources to help others." "That's true." Jun Changshao used exquisite fire and burned all the corpses of the soldiers. Then, he ordered his disciples to clean up the battlefield. Whoosh whoosh. A cool breeze blew across the hillside. The battlefield, which was originally filled with blood, was now clean as if nothing had happened. Shouyang City. City Lord Han was anxiously pacing back and forth. His eyes were filled with sorrow. He had just received news that Jinyang County's 10,000 cavalry had broken through Huayang County's Qingling City and were coming from 1,000 miles away. City Lord. A general in armor said, "Our Shouyang City has 50,000 soldiers. We should be able to contend against them." City Lord Han shook his head. "The attacking general is Executioner Miao Kuai. His cavalry division is equipped with demon explosive crossbows. Even if our Shouyang City has a lot of soldiers, we might not be able to defend." The general was silent. As a soldier, he had naturally heard of the power of the demon explosive crossbow. 1 arrow from each person could easily destroy the city gate. If the enemy used this weapon, they really had no chance of winning. Sigh. City Lord Han sighed, "Let's leave it to the heavens." He clearly knew that what was about to come was a force that he couldn't contend against. But for the city, for the people, they would never be slaves. They had to defend to the death. However, after waiting for 3 days, the cavalry division of Jinyang County still hadn't arrived. This made City Lord Han a little confused. The general was puzzled. "City Lord, with the cavalry's speed, they should have arrived a long time ago. Why haven't they appeared yet? Maybe the enemy wants us to lower our guard so that they can launch a surprise attack." City Lord Han analyzed. The general said, "According to our intelligence, Miao Kuai's cavalry disappeared after entering Azure Sun County. That's the most terrifying part." City Lord Han hurriedly said, "Tell the soldiers to be on full alert. We can't relax in the slightest." Yes. Everyone in Shouyang City was on guard day and night. They were afraid that the enemy would suddenly attack. After returning to the sect, Jun Changshao received the news. He couldn't bear to see City Lord Han fighting with the air, so he wrote an anonymous letter and sent it over. The content was that the invading army had been annihilated and they could rest assured. Looking at the anonymous letter, City Lord Han sneered, "This must be the enemy's trick. We can't believe it so easily." Therefore, not only did Shouyang City not lower their guard, they were even stronger than before. All right. Sitting in the main hall, Jun Changshao heard the latest news from Li Luoqiu. He spread out his hands and said, "Since City Lord Han likes to fight with the air so much, let him continue to enjoy it." Sect Master. Li Luoqiu said, because the Miao Kuai cavalry disappeared, the Zhenyang County army stationed in Qingling City has not moved. What about Heian County? Jun Chengshao asked. Li Luoqiu said, 2 cities have already been breached. At this rate, it will take at least 1 to 2 months to take down the other 10 cities. Delay for as long as possible. Jun Chengshao muttered. For the next few days, the latest news from the 2 counties was sent to the Iron Bone Sect through the sound transmission technique. Jun Chengshao paid attention to it all the time. Sect Master. Li Qingyang reported, junior brothers and sisters have all broken through to the peak of martial disciple realm. In order to let the disciples break through faster and face the upcoming war, Sect Master Jun specially gave out a lot of spirit stones. Therefore, it was reasonable for them to all reach the peak of martial disciple realm. Now, resting his chin on the back of his hand, Jun Chengshao muttered, let's wait for the herbs to mature and refine the martial master pill. Because the 2 counties were desperately defending, Zhenyang County was also afraid of losing too much, so they deliberately slowed down the pace of their attack. This dragged on for more than 10 days. One day, Elder Wei handed over a spatial ring and said, Sect Master, the herbs have matured. Jun Chengshao hurriedly took it and opened the alchemy pavilion. There were more than 4,000 martial master pills that could be refined. Good. Very good, very good. Refine, refine, I must refine. Chapter 443. Ding. 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 The sound of the martial master pills being refined rang from day to night and from midnight to early morning. It was definitely noise. However, sect leader Jun was very happy when he heard it. He slept soundly and even danced energetically during his morning exercises. By noon, more than 4,000 martial master pills had been refined. Jun Chengshao casually took out 1 pill from his interspatial ring and muttered, after consuming it, one can easily break through to martial master. If this news were to spread to the outside world, it would definitely cause a huge commotion. Without hesitation, he gathered all the peak martial disciples and gave each of them 1 pill. The rest of the martial master pills were all stored in the medicine hall and set a rule that only peak martial disciples could receive them. Can one really break through to martial master after eating the pill? Since sect leader said so, it must be true. I'm about to break through to martial master. I'm a little excited. The peak martial disciples who received the martial master pills all returned to their rooms and swallowed the pills while suppressing their excitement. It tasted good. It was a little sweet and fragrant. Whoosh whoosh. After a while, in the inner court disciples' rooms, the aura of advancement surged out of the rooms and gathered in mid-air, forming a rather spectacular scene. Jun Chengshao stood in the main hall and witnessed the scene of his disciples breaking through. A bright smile appeared on his face. The feeling of his precious disciples breaking through was even more satisfying than his own advancement. This is too incredible. Yi Xingqian, who was comprehending the sword art in the inner court practice field, looked at the aura of advancement in disbelief. As a martial emperor, he had never seen so many people breaking through at the same time. Of course. In the Falling Star continent, it wasn't that a collective breakthrough had never happened before. For example, when a heavenly treasure was triggered, a divine attribute would suddenly appear in a certain area and the martial cultivators would benefit from it. However, relying on pills to break through at the same time was absolutely unprecedented. The vast aura of advancement lasted for about 2 hours and gradually decreased. The disciples who had taken the martial master pills all became martial masters. Boom! Boom! In the training room, the disciples who had just broken through to martial master were bombarding the testing machine one by one. Li Qingyang was at the side in charge of statistics. Sect leader. After the test ended, Li Qingyang said, the average strength of the disciples who broke through to martial master is around 40,000. Jiang Ye said in surprise, they are all high-level martial masters. A rank 1 martial master had a strength of around 30,000, which was considered average. Around 40,000 was considered high, 50,000 was considered extreme, and 60,000 was considered superior. In the falling star continent, those who had become advanced martial masters usually had superior spiritual roots. On the other hand, there were only a few iron bone disciples who had just broken through. Most of them were of mortal bone. This was very powerful. It is no wonder that I, Elder Jiang, am astonished. It's comfortable. Jun Changshao leaned back in his chair with a smile on his face. Being able to train a group of disciples with low aptitude into advanced martial masters filled him with a sense of honor. The system poured cold water on him. The host still has 99 years to go before Iron Bone becomes the strongest sect. If you are a man and stand before me, Jun Changshao fiercely said, I'll definitely punch you until you can't take care of yourself. What a pity. The system said, if the host isn't there, I won't be able to hit you. Jun Changshao was too lazy to pay attention to him. He muttered, my realm has increased. I just need to wait for Xinyang County to come. Apart from Yao Menjing, all 2,524 Iron Bone disciples had reached martial master or above. Even a fifth-rate sect didn't have that many. Of course. It didn't mean that Iron Bone was strong. It was because the disciples had a strong foundation and less top-notch strength. Not to mention martial kings, even Wuzong only had 2 pitiful disciples. One was Jun Changshao, and the other was Xueren Gui. There were quite a few Iron Bone peak martial masters. Li Qingyang and other inner disciples, as well as Zhong Yi, who had just entered the sect, had all reached that level. It was a pity that they didn't have Wuzong pills. They could only rely on their understanding of martial arts to achieve a breakthrough. It wouldn't take long. It was because their aptitudes were good. This wasn't it. After a few days, Yi Xingqian, who was stuck at peak martial master, first refined the cyclone in his body into a spirit core and officially entered Wuzong. Boom! In the training room, he punched out. The testing machine displayed a strength of 280,000 jin. Not bad, not bad. Yi Xingqian was very satisfied. In his previous life, he had used 5 years to enter first-grade Wuzong. Now, he only used 1 year to do it. Moreover, he didn't use any martial arts at that time, so his strength was only around 200,000 jin. Now, it was 80,000 jin higher. He could grow faster and become stronger. Naturally, it was because he was cultivating at Iron Bone. Thinking back to when he was carried here and threatened, Yi Xingqian couldn't help but think, if I had chosen to leave back then, it would have been very good if I could break through to martial disciple in a year. Increasing his strength was only one of the benefits. Secondly, he had also cultivated Yi Jin Jing and other martial arts. The benefits were definitely great. At this time, if sect leader Jun wanted Yi Xingqian to leave, he would definitely not agree. He would definitely hug the pillar and say proudly, I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving, I'm not leaving. Boom! Suddenly, the sound of a fist was heard. Yi Xingqian came back to his senses and saw Jun Changshao standing in front of the testing machine. The strength of the punch was 600,000 jin. For a peak Wuzong to produce this kind of strength, it was definitely something only a superior grade martial artist could do. Although Yi Xingqian was surprised, he wasn't envious. Because he was confident that he could also produce 600,000 jin when he broke through to peak Wuzong. On a tall mountain peak, Lu Qianqian, dressed in white, floated in the air. She looked like a fairy. Qianqian, when you enter Wuzong, you can go to Lu Zhou in the northeast to look for the extreme mysterious ice pool. With your talent and physique, coupled with the Taixian ice heart technique, you can definitely increase your cultivation quickly. But you must remember that your heart must be as still as water. Otherwise, if your state of mind is slightly disturbed and you enter the extreme mysterious ice pool, you will be eroded by the 10,000-year cold ice qi and suffer unbearable pain. The old voice rang in Lu Qianqian's ears, causing the worry between her brows to become even more intense. She thought to herself, Grand Elder, although I have broken through to Martial Grandmaster now, I have yet to truly achieve a heart as calm as still water. What was it that made her unable to conceal her spirit and chi, unable to comprehend the state of being as still as water of the Taishan Ice Heart technique? What are you thinking about? A voice came from below. Jun Changshao was sitting on a rock. He had a charming smile on his face. Was it him? Lu Qianqian's beautiful face returned to its usual coldness. She said, "Sect leader, I want to go out and gain experience." "How long will it take?" Jun Changshao asked. Looking towards the northeast, Lu Qianqian said uncertainly, "Maybe 10 years, maybe 100 years. 10 years, 100 years. Jun Changshao's mouth twitched. Is there any difference between this and leaving the sect? Sect leader, didn't you say that I will always be the eldest disciple of the School of Iron Bones? Lu Qianqian said, so, no matter how long I leave, I will always be the eldest disciple of the School of Iron Bones. You really want to go out and gain experience? Yes. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, I respect your choice. Chapter 444. However, Jun Changshao said, now is not the time to go and train. Let's wait for the war to end before leaving. Okay. Lu Qianqian thought so too. She only wanted to ask for the sect leader's opinion. If he agreed, she would consider choosing a suitable time to leave. Speaking of which, if Jun Changshao didn't agree, would Lu Qianqian still go and train? This question was not asked nor answered. Thus, it was up to everyone to imagine. Actually, Jun Changshao wouldn't completely bind his disciples to the sect. Going out to train was beneficial to their growth, so he definitely wouldn't oppose it. As for defections, he wasn't worried. This was because if a disciple had the slightest thought, their memories would be erased. It was because of this restriction that sect leader Jun dared to recruit disciples without any scruples. Otherwise, he would definitely check them one by one to make sure they weren't spies sent by other factions. Currently, there were more than 2,000 disciples, and none of them lost their memories. This meant that they truly approved of Iron Bone and weren't here to play spy. Of course. As the sect's prestige grew, there would definitely be other factions that had such thoughts. Sect leader Jun was looking forward to how his memories would be erased. The system was speechless. The host's idea is really cheap and naughty. Iron Bone's disciples had a great breakthrough. The war outside was still ongoing. A few brave city lords in Huayang County were still stubbornly defending their cities with the soldiers and civilians. As for Heian County, although they couldn't prevent more cities from falling, they were able to delay the enemy. Using this time, Jun Changshao ordered his disciples to continue cultivating and strive to break through to a higher level. Sect leader Shui Rengui said, I think we should take the initiative to attack and catch the Xinjiang County army off guard. The members of Wolf Rider Hall had all become martial masters. This gave him more confidence. Jun Changshao shook his head. If we attack without permission, it's the same as directly participating in the war. Xinjiang County might give up on attacking the other two counties and focus on attacking Qingyang County. Makes sense. Shui Rengui said. Jun Changshao looked at the sand table and said, so we can only wait. Wait for them to attack, and then use the excuse of defense to repel them. The mission was to defend Qingyang City. As long as the other party was defeated, the mission would be completed. Sect leader. At this moment, Li Luoqiu walked in with quick steps and said solemnly, news came from the front lines. After Xinjiang County broke through the fortified city, they mobilized 30,000 soldiers and are charging toward Green Sun City. Jun Changshao was speechless. Can't you guys follow the rules? If you don't destroy Heian County and Huayang County, why do you keep harassing my Qingyang County? Shui Rengui explained, Xinjiang County wants to take down Green Sun City, and then attack the other cities in Heyang City from different directions. Alright. Jun Chengshao said, what will come will come. We can't avoid it no matter how many there are. Li Luoqiu continued, according to the news, the leader of this invasion is called Tao Yuan, another valiant general under Bai Ruihu's command. I've heard of Tao Yuan. Shui Rengui said, he comes from a family of generals and has studied military law since he was young. He is a junior with a bright future. The army he has trained is called the Tiger Might Army, and it is one of the best in Yangzhou. Although he hadn't been a soldier for many years, he still paid attention to military matters. It was a habit that was hard to get rid of. So, the 30,000 attacking army is stronger than the cavalry? Jun Chengshao asked. Shui Rengui said, the Tiger Army led by Tao Yuan is well disciplined and brave. A boorish man like Miao Hui can't compare to them. Can they be compared to the Wolf Rider Hall? Jun Chengshao asked. Shui Rengui said, of course not. As a former 5-star general, he was confident that he would be able to defeat Tao Yuan even if he were to fight him head-on. Of course. It was built on the fact that the Wolf Rider Hall was too strong. If he had 2,000 or 3,000 soldiers, even if he was possessed by the war god, he wouldn't be able to fight against such an elite force. Let's go. Jun Chengshao said, let's go to Qingyang City. Yes. The 1,000 members of the Wolf Rider Hall left Iron Bone on their hurricane wolves. Not only did Sect Master Jun transfer Li Qingyang, Shao Ziji, and the other inner disciples, he also sent another 1,000 inner disciples. The sect only had a little over 2,500 people. Taking away 2,000 of them at once could be considered as going all out. The epic mission was to defend Qingyang City. Jun Chengshao had to do it without fail. If he failed the mission, he would be stuck at Wuzong Peak for a long time. Damn it! On the way, he broke down. Although the mission gives a lot of rewards, it will be terrible if I can't complete it. Qingyang City, City Lord's Mansion. Xie Guanquan was like an ant on a hot pan. He was anxiously pacing back and forth. When Jun Chengshao received the news, he also received the news. Xinjiang County didn't play by the rules. They sent 30,000 soldiers from Heian County. This was something he didn't expect. What made our adorable city Lord Xia collapse even more was that they were actually from the Tiger Might Army. This was the elite army that got 3rd place in the army tournament a few years ago. If they came to attack Qingyang City, they would definitely die. City Lord. A general gritted his teeth and said, no matter what army Xinjiang County sends, I will defend the city to the death. This person was called Sun He, the general of Qingyang City. Although he had a lot of experience in leading armies, he was still too weak compared to a general like Tao Yuan. If he was given an army with the same number of people and strength, he would lose no matter how many times he fought on the battlefield. Some people were born with military talent. People like Tao Yuan who was willing to study hard would definitely beat many generals. Of course. If Shui Rengui was given an army with the same number of soldiers, he could beat Tao Yuan until he couldn't tell north. After all, a 5-star general didn't rely on age. They climbed up step by step with strength. City Lord. At this moment, a subordinate reported, Sect Master Jun is here to visit. Xie Guanquan, who was anxious, hurriedly said, quickly invite him in, quickly invite him in. In the hall. Jun Chengshao had just sat down when Xie Guanquan said with a frown, Sect Master Jun, 30,000 soldiers from Xinjiang County are coming. I'm afraid Qingyang City is in danger. The enemy was the Tiger Army led by Tao Yuan. He didn't have any hope. Thank you, City Lord. Jun Chengshao said, I also received the news. That's why I brought my disciples here to help. Xie Guanquan was very moved, but his heart was also filled with bitterness. The enemy is the famous Tiger Army of southwest Yangzhou. Qingyang City won't be able to escape this calamity. That might not be the case. Jun Changshao pointed at Shui Rengui who was standing behind him and said, City Lord Xia, I brought a general who is good at marching and fighting. He will definitely be able to help Qingyang City resolve this crisis. Xia Guangquan couldn't help but take another look at this slightly sloppy middle-aged man. He muttered in his heart, he doesn't have the aura of a soldier at all. Can he really march and fight? Being recognized by Miao Hui reminded Shui Rengui. He had specially disguised himself when he came to help, and his general aura was well hidden. At first, Jun Changshao didn't understand and asked, Hall Master Shui, why did you disguise yourself? Shui Rengui said, I'm just a deserter. If news of this spread to Zhongzuan Prefecture, it would only bring unnecessary trouble. Hall Master Shui is afraid of bringing trouble to the sect, right? Jun Changshao said. Shui Rengui nodded. Jun Changshao glanced at him, then looked at the disguised Jiang Ye. He said seriously, when Iron Bone has enough strength to contend against all dangers, you won't have to hide anymore. Chapter 445. During this period of time, Mayor Xie had also been very attentive. He had strengthened the walls of Qingyang City a lot. However, it was nothing more than a superficial defense. If the other party used a lethal weapon like the demon explosive crossbow, the city would collapse even if it reached the clouds. In the city, there was a rather spacious drill ground. The 50,000 soldiers of Qingyang City had already gathered. Although they were very disciplined, they were only 3rd or 4th rank martial disciples in terms of strength. Not to mention facing the Tiger army that was about to attack, it would be difficult for them to fight against Miao Hui's cavalry. Sect leader Jun Xie Guangquan walked up to the high platform and said, This is the fighting force of Qingyang City. Jun Changshao stopped and said, Mayor Xie must have spent a lot of money. Xie Guangquan almost burst into tears. 50,000 soldiers. Their daily training and equipment cost a lot of money. It took a lot of effort to train them. Shui Rengui said telepathically, Sect leader, the soldiers trained by Mayor Xia will definitely not be able to fight against Tao Yuan's Tiger army. I think we can let the disciples defend the city. Jun Changshao also thought so. It was not that he did not trust Xie Guangquan's soldiers, but guarding Qingyang City was related to whether or not he could complete his mission. He had to be careful. Mayor Xie. Jun Changshao said, If you trust me, I, Iron Bone, am willing to defend Qingyang City on your behalf. Then I'll have to trouble you. Sect leader Jun Xie Guangquan also knew that the soldiers he trained had almost no chance of winning, so it was better to bet on Jun Changshao. The Iron Bone he took care of had become strong in just a short year. Perhaps they could really defend the city. These 50,000 soldiers will listen to sect leader Jun's command. Xie Guangquan even gave up the military power. It was obvious that he was really going to gamble. No need. Jun Changshao said, Just let your soldiers rest in the city. Leave the rest to the Iron Bone sect. Mayor Xie's mouth twitched. Although the 50,000 soldiers were not elite, it was still a force. Sect leader Jun did not use them. He was a little too confident. Whoosh! 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 At this moment, thousands of Iron Bone disciples ascended the tower and lined up in a row, keeping a large distance from each other. Green Sun City was huge, and so were the city walls. It was definitely unrealistic for 1,000 people to stand side by side. The Iron Bone disciples stood on top of the city gate tower with their chests puffed out. Their backs were facing the city, and their bodies exuded an unyielding aura. The citizens, who were originally slightly panicked, felt a sense of security when they sensed that aura. Mayor Xia, who had been a little worried and doubtful at first, was also affected by the Iron Bone disciples' unyielding attitude and became respectful. Sect Master Jun. He shouted, The 3,600,000 people of Green Sun City are willing to live and die with the city. We are willing to live and die with the city. 50,000 soldiers shouted in unison. We are willing to live and die with the city. The millions of citizens in the city also shouted loudly. For a time, his voice tore through the sky and was unable to calm down for a long time. The murderous aura that had gathered in the sky turned into a hot-blooded aura that made people's blood boil. Jun Changshao sat on the roof of the city gate tower with the back of his hand supporting his chin. He looked straight ahead and murmured, "As long as I, Iron Bone, am here, no one will be able to break through Green Sun City." Whoosh! Xiao Ziji jumped onto a sentry tower and placed the Type 88 sniper rifle and AWM sniper rifle in place. Then, he took out more than 10 magazines and began to reload them. The Xinjiang County Army would definitely fire frequently if they attacked. He did not want to reload after firing as it would only be a waste of time. On the other 2 sentry towers, the Drizzle Hall members were already in place. They formed a group of 3 and set up 2 God-modified AWM sniper rifles. These people's physical strength was not as strong as Xiao Ziji's. If they fired frequently, they would have to replace them to better withstand the recoil. The 3 snipers were in place, and the Iron Bone disciples on top of the city wall summoned their iron shields. The magic explosive crossbows that were taken from the Miao Yu cavalry were also summoned. Each disciple was given 5 magic explosive crossbows. In the city, the members of Wolf Rider Hall led by Zhong Yi were also preparing. Thousands of hurricane wolves stood on the drill ground, emitting an intimidating aura. I can finally stretch my arms and legs. I've been holding it in for so long. Su Xiaoma and Li Fei were in front of the city gate tower doing warm-ups before the battle. Lu Qianqian, Li Qingyang, Tian Qi, Yi Xingqian, Long Zixuan, and other inner disciples were also in front of the city gate tower. Jiang Yi sat in the recess of the city wall, tapping his fingers on the brick surface with a smile on his face. In the upcoming battle, Iron Bone would definitely send out all of their elites. Sect Master Shui Rengui walked up to the city gate tower and said, "Everything is ready." "Okay." Jun Changshao replied. Buzz! Buzz! At this moment, a faint sound came from the north. Dust filled the air in the distance, as if a sandstorm was sweeping over with great momentum. Ta! Ta! As it got closer, the sound became clearer. It was obviously the sound of thousands of horses galloping. "They're here." Mayor Xie's heart was in his mouth. The people in the city were also nervous. After all, the invaders were from the 6th class Xinjiang County. Sitting on the roof, Jun Changshao smiled and said, "Today will determine whether we can complete the epic mission and become the Sword and Martial King." Hiss! Hiss! After a short while, the dust gradually settled 1,000 feet away from the city. 20,000 fully armed warhorses stood side by side, carrying valiant soldiers in leather armor on their backs. Ta! 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 After a while, another 10,000 infantrymen in armor rushed over with spears in their hands and lined up neatly behind the cavalrymen. From the aura they exuded, they were definitely much stronger than Miao Hui's cavalry. Whoosh! 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 As the enemy appeared, the Iron Bone disciples on the city wall retreated and stood on the northern city wall. The camera was looking down from the sky. Outside the city, the morale of Xinjiang County's 30,000 soldiers was high. Inside the city, there were only 1,000 soldiers on the northern city wall and city tower. This was a bit of a disparity. One day in the future, when the flames of war spread to Xinjiang County and tens of thousands of cavalrymen arrived at Xinjiang City, a man and his disciples would stand on the city wall and protect the city's 3.6 million people with their iron bodies. This sentence, this hole, I will fill it up today. General. After the Xinjiang County's 30,000 soldiers were in position, a deputy general pointed at the city tower and said in surprise, "Someone is sitting there." Tao Yuan, who was around 25 years old, looked up and saw a person sitting there. Our attack this time is considered open and aboveboard. Qingyang City must have received the news. Why are there so few soldiers on the city wall? A deputy general asked in confusion. Could it be that they know they can't compete with our tiger army and sent some people up to put on a show? Someone asked. Tao Yuan kicked his horse and walked to the front of the army. He shouted at Qingyang City, "Is the one sitting on the city tower the Qingyang City Lord?" Xie Guangquan, who was in the city, heard this and his mouth twitched violently. I'm not as flirtatious as sect leader Jun. Chapter 446. 30,000 enemy troops were invading, but sect leader Jun was still sitting on the roof of the city tower. Sect leader. Li Qingyang leaned on the 8x scope and aimed at Tao Yuan's helmet. The target has been locked on. Hit the horse's foot. Jun Changshao said, give him a greeting gift. Xiao Zuiji lowered the muzzle slightly and pulled the trigger decisively. With his current marksmanship, he would definitely hit wherever he pointed. However, the moment the bullet shot out silently, a black shadow suddenly flew out from the enemy army and blocked in front of Tao Yuan, instantly forming a defensive barrier. Bang! The bullet hit the barrier and a muffled sound was heard. However, the barrier was extremely strong and couldn't be broken. Jiang Ye frowned and said, Martial King. TSK TSK. Jun Changshao said, I wanted to give him a greeting gift, but I didn't expect him to give himself a show of strength. Whoosh! The old man standing in front of Tao Yuan waved his long sleeve and removed the thick spiritual energy wall. He said in a deep voice, only incompetent rats would stab people in the back. Although he said that, he was shocked in his heart. The bullet was too fast. Although he caught it with his spiritual sense, he wouldn't have been able to save it in time if he was delayed. Tao Yuan's expression changed slightly. If it wasn't for the protection of a strong cultivator, he would have been in danger just now. He thought too much. Sect leader Jun was just giving a greeting gift. Even if he didn't have the protection of a martial king, he would at most hit the horse's foot and disturb it. Whoosh! Jun Changshao stood up and said, General Tao, Qingyang County is just a small place. Why do you have to attack us? Tao Yuan said, Friend, you haven't answered my question yet. The situation was so dangerous just now, but he could still speak so calmly. This person's state of mind was very strong. Jun Changshao shrugged and said, I'm not the mayor of Qingyang City. I'm the Iron Bone sect leader. Jun Changshao. Tao Yuan asked. Our sect master Jun's name has spread far and wide. Even the rising stars of the military world have heard of his name. Jun Changshao said, that's right. Tao Yuan frowned slightly and said, you're just a sect. Are you going to participate in a secular war? If your true Sun County were to attack other counties, my Iron Bone would naturally not participate. However, Green Sun City is my home. How can I sit idly by? Jun Changshao said. All right. Tao Yuan said, Sect Master Jun is determined to protect Green Sun City with his life. Nonsense. If I don't guard Qingyang City, the mission will fail. The martial emperor, who was standing in front of Tao Yuan, snapped coldly, who was the one who shot the arrow? Come out and fight me for 300 rounds if you have the guts. Jiang Ye lazily got up and said indifferently, martial kings are not allowed to participate in worldly wars. You should know about this rule, right? The martial king sneered and said, this old man is not participating. I just want to exchange blows with the experts of Qingyang City. Damn. A martial king wants to exchange blows with the experts of a 9th grade county. It's obvious that I'm here to bully people. All right then. Jiang Ye said, this elder will exchange blows with you. Ta! He stomped on the city wall and used the cloud steps. He jumped down with his hands behind his back. It could be said that he was extremely confident. Elder Jiang is mighty. The disciples cheered and cheered. Plop. Jiang accidentally jumped down from the city wall and fell to the ground. Jiang, the disciples' mouths twitched. Are you sure you're the only elder of the Iron Bone sect? Cough cough. Jiang stood up from the ground and patted the dust off. He coughed twice and said, the ground is too soft to withstand our battle. Why don't we change the location? Forcefully giving himself a way out, this move was definitely better than Jun Changxiao's. Humph, the martial king sneered and said, you choose the location. Jiang pointed at the forest in the distance and said, let's do it there. Then, he transmitted his voice, sect leader, martial kings can't participate in worldly wars. I'll lure this guy away. The rest is up to you. Go, Jun Changxiao said. It was the first time he knew that martial kings couldn't participate in wars, but he still let out a long sigh of relief. There must be many martial kings in the 6th grade Jinyang County. If 2 of them were sent to attack the city, they definitely wouldn't be able to defend Qingyang City. Whoosh! Whoosh! Jiang Ye and the martial king used their movement techniques and walked toward the forest in front of them. Tao Yuan returned to the formation. Dozens of soldiers wearing heavy armor and carrying medium-sized shields blocked in front of him. Obviously, they were worried that hidden weapons would shoot at them again. General Tao. Jun Changxiao said, Qingyang City is small and has few people. There aren't many valuable resources. Why don't we all retreat peacefully? If they could solve the problem with words, they naturally didn't want to use weapons. Tao Yuan said, I'm here under orders. If sect leader Jun doesn't want too many casualties, you can open the city and surrender. Jun Changxiao shook his head and said, the word surrender doesn't exist in Jun's dictionary. If that's the case, then we can only decide the winner on the battlefield. Tao Yuan waved his hand after saying that. Whoosh! Whoosh! The cavalry in front made way, and hundreds of infantrymen pushed out 4 heavy siege weapons that looked like catapults. Fuck! Jun Changxiao said in surprise, there's such a thing. Shui Rengui said, this is a crystal core catapult. It's powered by crystal cores. Even the most ordinary stone can create a super destructive force. At this time, Xie Guankuan also walked up. When he saw the 4 catapults, his expression changed drastically. It's over, it's over. This is much more powerful than the demon explosive crossbow. Sect leader Jun, Tao Yuan said, I'll give you one more chance. Do you choose to surrender or defend to the death? Ka ka ka. A few infantrymen worked together to load the 4 iron balls that weighed 1,000 pounds onto the catapults. They were powered by crystal cores. Once they were thrown, the power generated was enough to blast a hole in the city wall. However, they were only loaded with iron balls. If they were loaded with crystal cores, they could easily blow up half of the city wall. Jun Changxiao said decisively, defend to the death. Tao Yuan waved his hand. Whoosh! 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 After the crystal core catapults were calibrated, the 4 iron balls were immediately thrown out. Because of the crystal cores, the speed was not only fast, but it even dragged a stream of light. Mayor Xie's expression changed drastically. The force of each ball was at least 200,000 pounds. If they hit the city wall, the defense that he had painstakingly built would be in vain. Zhou Hong. Jun Changxiao said, I'll leave it to you. Ta. Zhou Hong stepped forward and stood at the front of the city tower. He put one hand on his sword and locked his eyes on the 4 flying iron balls. This. Xie Guankuan was dumbfounded. Such fast speed, such strong force. Was he going to rely on his sword to break it? Clang! Suddenly, the sound of a sword being unsheathed could be heard. In Mayor Xie's field of vision, a dense sword shadow appeared, interweaving into an inescapable net. In one breath, 80 swords. Chapter 447. Because of Zhou Hong's special cultivation method, the number of times he appeared in Iron Bone was about the same as Sima Zhongda and Cui Bujian. But that didn't mean that our swordsman didn't grow. Standing in front of the city gate tower and using the single-word speed formula, he slashed out 80 times in an instant. That was the proof of his increase in strength. This guy has gotten stronger. Yi Xingchen thought. Although he had reached Wuzong, he wasn't confident that he could win against Zhou Hong. Before Zhou Hong joined the sect, he was already a martial master. Although he didn't have access to martial resources, he could still improve his swordsmanship by practicing the Ling Jian divine formula. He was a professional swordsman, to the point where he was intoxicated. If he wanted to win, he had to suppress him with greater strength. Xie Guanquan's eyes widened. He only felt Zhou Hong's wrists in front of him. How could there be so many sword qi? Expert, expert, expert. Whoosh. 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 Just at this moment, 4 iron balls that carried the power of 10,000 kilograms flew over in an arc, and they were just enveloped by the interweaving sword qi. Puchi. Puchi. The moment the iron balls flew over, they were cut into pieces like tofu. Their power was also reduced. Ding. 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 The disciples of the Iron Bone sect raised their iron shields one after another, effortlessly blocking the falling pieces of iron. Tao Yuan and the enemy general widened their eyes when they saw this. 1 man and 1 sword. Just how terrifying was it that he was able to easily neutralize all 4 iron balls that were shot at him. Bang! Sect leader Jun caught the flying iron balls with one hand and said, "My disciple's strength is probably not weaker than the 2nd or 3rd stage Wuzong." The system said, this kid's future achievements will definitely not be limited to the Sword King. He might be a Sword Emperor or even a Sword Saint. TSK, TSK. Jun Changshao said, "That's a high evaluation. I've sinned." He pointed at the 4 crystal throwing machines and said, "Destroy all of them." Bang! 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 Xiao Ziji fired 1 shot, pulled the bolt, and fired 4 shots. The whole process was extremely fast. Boom! 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 The 4 bullets hit the crystal core of the launcher precisely, raising an enormous explosion and blowing away dozens of enemies nearby. Tao Yuan and his lieutenants were all dumbstruck. Jun Changshao sat down again and said, "It's impolite not to reciprocate. Is General Tao satisfied with the greeting gift from Green Sun City?" He was very satisfied. And it was very frightening. Tao Yuan's expression was extremely ugly as he thought to himself, what kind of hidden weapon is this? It actually managed to break through the catapult from such a distance. It was a technology that had never existed on the Starfall continent. General Tao. Jun Changshao said, "Let me tell you this responsibly. If you really want to attack my Qingyang city, I'm afraid that your soldiers will all die here." "Humph," a deputy general snorted coldly and said, "What big words. You don't believe me?" Jun Changshao snapped his fingers and said, "Babies, let's show these guests who came from afar today." Creek below, the sound of the city gates opening could be heard. Awoo! Awoo! The members of the Wolf Riding Hall, who were already prepared, rushed out on their hurricane wolves and lined up neatly outside Qingyang City. Hiss! The appearance of the hurricane wolves caused the 20,000 war horses to neigh in fear. However, they quickly calmed down after being comforted by the soldiers. It was obvious that these war horses were more experienced than Miao Kuai's war horses. "General," a deputy general said, "it's the hurricane wolves." Tao Yuan's expression turned ugly. He knew that the hurricane wolves were at least as strong as a rank 4 or 5 martial master. Riding them in battle was definitely not something his war horses could compare to. "General Tao," Jun Changshao said proudly, "against my Wolf Riding Hall, do you think your 20,000 cavalrymen can win? Tao Yuan said indifferently, although your mounts are strong, they don't rely on brute force on the battlefield. Does this mean that the members of the wolf riding hall are only brute force? Jun Chengshao laughed. Swoosh. Shui Rengui, who was standing on the city gate tower, waved the war flag and said to himself, "Little guy, today I will teach you a lesson. What is a battlefield, what is war? Kill." Zhong Yi, who received the order, shouted loudly. Swoosh. Swoosh. The members of the wolf riding hall raised their overlord spears and charged forward on their hurricane wolves. Their explosive momentum disturbed the surrounding air. Fight! Tao Yuan ordered. Ta ta ta! The 20,000 cavalrymen moved forward and formed a battle formation. Looking from the sky, it looked like a crescent moon. Shui Rengui knew that Tao Yuan wanted to rely on the advantage of numbers to form a large net and surround the members of the wolf riding hall. Good strategy. Unfortunately, you underestimated my iron bone wolf riding hall. Swoosh. Shui Rengui immediately waved the war flag. Zhong Yi shouted, "Break the enemy lines, only death, kill, swoosh." Swoosh. Swoosh. The members of the Wolf Rider Hall, who were following closely behind him, gathered together and formed a spear formation. Then, they attacked the net like sharp arrows. A group of wild wolf beasts could change their formation so quickly. This made Tao Yuan quite surprised. Kill! The commander of the cavalrymen drew his sword and rushed forward. Looking down from the sky, a spear and rolling waves were rushing at each other from the left and right. Release the arrows. The commander of the tiger riding hall shouted. The charging cavalrymen waved their hands and took out bows and arrows from their horses. Their legs were tightly clamped on the horse's back. They held the bow with their right hand and pulled the bowstring with their left hand. They were not only cavalrymen but also archers. Swoosh! 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 The 20,000 cavalrymen shot their arrows at the same time. 20,000 arrows were shot and formed a one shape. Defend! Zhong Yi shouted. Swoosh! 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 The charging cavalrymen summoned their iron shields from their interspatial rings and raised them. The disciples in the front activated their defensive barrier, forming a 360 degrees defense without any blind spots. Ding! 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 The sword rain was blocked by the iron shields. Release, swoosh! Bang! Before the deputy general, who was charging over with the cavalry, could give the order, the flowing light bullet directly pierced through his temple. Plop! The corpse fell and was trampled by the following horses. Ka! Xiao Ziji threw his AWM and set up his Type 88 sniper rifle. He fired 20 bullets at the crowd as fast as he could. Plop! Plop! 20 charging soldiers fell from their horses one after another. There were small holes between their eyebrows. Not a single bullet missed its mark, and every move was fatal. Although the charging cavalrymen did not have the commander to give orders, they still took out arrows from their quiver. However, they did not have time to pull the bowstring because the iron bone disciples were already charging at them with the help of the hurricane wolves. Puchi! Puchi! The tip of the overlord's spear in front shone brightly. It instantly shot out a stream of light and directly pierced the chest of the enemy soldier in front. Kill! Kill! The following disciples followed and charged with the overlord's spear in their hands. They directly tore a hole in the net that appeared. Tao Yuan was dumbfounded by such a valiant and powerful combat strength. Chapter 448. The Tiger Might army trained by Tao Yuan had been through hundreds of battles. It was one of the top elite troops in southwest Yangzhou. However, they were completely vulnerable in front of the Iron Bone Wolf Riders. That was normal. Although the Tiger Might army was well equipped and mostly rank 6 or rank 7 martial disciples, the members of the Wolf Rider Hall were all martial masters, and high-level ones at that. They had done a strength test earlier. Without any martial arts, their explosive strength was around 45,000 kilograms. Together with the Hurricane Wolves and the Overlord's aura, it would be a piece of cake for one Wolf Rider to fight against 10 Tiger Might battalion soldiers. Jun Changshao dared to send 1,000 people to fight the 30,000 enemy soldiers because he was absolutely superior in strength and equipment. Otherwise, he would have just defended the city and let them attack. Thud, thud, thud. Thud, thud, thud. The Tiger Might army did not panic because their defense line was torn apart. Many soldiers quickly closed the net and surrounded the spears that were charging in. Tao Yuan was relieved when he saw that. How can 1,000 people escape when surrounded by the Iron Bucket formation? The strength of the Wolf Riders surprised him. However, they were few in number. Once they were surrounded, they would be sitting ducks. Kill! Kill! Zhong Yi led the team to turn around and charge toward the area where the cavalry had just gathered. Because they were strong and well-equipped, they were unstoppable. Puchi! Puchi! More of the Tiger Might army were knocked off their horses. Soon, the members of the Wolf Rider Hall fought their way out of the encirclement. During the process, the enemy must have counterattacked. However, although the spears could hit their targets, they were blocked by the iron shields. Whoosh! 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 More than 10 soldiers of the Tiger Might army poured their spiritual energy into their sabers and slashed at Li Yao with their sabers. Ding! Ding! The Iron Bone disciple who was besieged suddenly waved his overlord's spear and broke the sabers in front of him, but he could not protect his back. Tao Yuan sneered. This was the result of breaking in recklessly. Ding! 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 6 or 7 sabers all hit the Iron Bone disciple's back, and clanking sounds were heard. Tao Yuan's smile froze. The Tiger Might army soldiers were also dumbfounded. Die! Whoosh! After the Iron Bone disciple blocked a few slashes, he turned around and sent the dazed soldiers flying. On the other side, there were also many members who were attacked from both sides. However, no matter if it was swords, spears, swords, halberds, axes, hooks, or forks, none of them were able to hurt them. In the end, they were even able to beat up their enemies. Why was that? This was because they were wearing soft silk armor that was impenetrable by swords and spears. The members of the Wolf Rider Hall gave face to the Tiger Army and didn't activate their seal shields. Otherwise, no matter how they attacked, they wouldn't be able to get close. Kill! Zhong Yi roared furiously, the Hurricane Wolf beneath him moving at full speed. The Overlord's spear in its hands danced wildly on both sides, and wherever it passed, the enemy soldiers would be sent flying. This was definitely a Tiger General. Boom! Boom! The members of the Wolf Rider Hall followed closely behind their commander. They maintained a long snake formation, and in the end, they killed their way out of the encirclement. Tao Yuan's facial muscles had already stiffened. Surrounded by his Iron Bone formation, thousands of Iron Bone disciples were still able to fight their way out. This was definitely a blow to their self-esteem. However, the show had just begun. Under the wave of Shuirengue's battle flag, Zhong Yi turned his spearhead and led his members to kill their way in. It was like Zhao Zilong of Changshan and Changban's slope. Awoo! Awoo! Boom! 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 The Hurricane Wolf ran wildly, and with its strong body, it knocked the warhorses away. The members of the Wolf Rider Hall who were riding on the Hurricane Wolf frequently stabbed their overlord spears. Streaks of light flashed, and the surrounding enemy soldiers were knocked to the ground one by one. When Zhong Yi led his men out of the chaos, 4 to 5,000 of the 20,000 Iron Bone cavalry were either dead or injured. Tao Yuan was completely dumbfounded. The elite division that he had painstakingly built and had won third place in the army tournament was actually being harvested like weeds in front of thousands of Iron Bone disciples. If it were any other division in Qingyang County, the Tiger Army would be able to completely crush them. However, in front of the Wolf Rider Hall, it was completely useless. It was like a martial disciple fighting with a well-equipped and powerful martial master with his bare hands. Not to mention injuring the martial master, it would be amazing if he could even touch the corner of the martial master's clothes. Some readers thought that people would die on the battlefield. That was right. War was merciless and the battlefield was cruel. Death and injury were inevitable. However, when the Wolf Rider Hall appeared in an invincible manner, death and injury were negated. Sect leader Jun had worked hard during this period. Moreover, with Jun Changxiao's character, he would never fight a battle that he was not confident in. Since he dared to fight against an army of 30,000 with only 1,000 people, he must be confident. Kill! Kill! Zhong Yi led his men to charge again. This time, they changed into a triangular formation. The members kept their overlord spears and took out their cold-edged swords. Whoosh! 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 The hurricane wolf galloped forward as fast as the wind. Under the enhancement of spiritual energy, the cold-edged swords suddenly flashed with dazzling sword light, mercilessly harvesting the Tiger Army's wolf riders who were like wheat. After this battle, they lost as many as 2,000 people. After a few rounds of charging back and forth, the Tiger Army's casualties had risen to half. Tao Yuan would not allow the enemy to continue killing like this. He waved the war flag angrily. 10,000 infantrymen strode forward, holding special long weapons with hooks at the top. These were hooked spears used to restrain cavalry. Whoosh! 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 10,000 infantrymen raised their hooked spears and pointed them at the ground. Idiots, Jun Changxiao said indifferently. Awoo! Awoo! Zhong Yi led his men to charge again. Although he saw the strange-looking weapons and the possibility of sweeping the wolves' legs, he sneered and shouted, "Charge!" Whoosh! 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 The hurricane wolf accelerated and increased its speed again. Seeing this, the infantrymen suddenly realized that if they were to hook the legs of such ferocious wolves, there would be a huge impact. Tao Yuan also realized this and hurriedly shouted, "Put away your weapons." It was too late. The extremely fast hurricane wolf pack arrived in the blink of an eye. Their forelimbs hit the hooks hard. Not only were their tough bodies unharmed, but they also directly sent a large number of soldiers flying. Looking down from the sky, it could be seen that the moment the wolf cavalry and the infantrymen approached, a large number of them were instantly sent flying, and the formation was also messed up. Some of the Tiger Army soldiers were trampled by the hurricane wolves, and there were bloody holes in their chests. Even a martial master of the same level would not be able to withstand a kick from a 5th or 6th grade wolf beast, let alone a group of low-level martial disciples. Kill! Kill! The sound of killing shook the sky, and the momentum was like a rainbow. On this battlefield, the Wolf Cavalry Hall was not the only one performing. Xiao Ziji, who was in the sentry tower, was also shooting non-stop. The cavalrymen were shot down one by one. Whoosh! The bullet flew out again and accurately hit a soldier's chest. Ahahaha! Li Tian said excitedly, "Brother Snake, I hit him, I hit him." Viper's mouth twitched. "You did hit the target, but do you know how many bullets you used to hit one of them? Let's try again." Li Tian suppressed his excitement and raised the Type 88 sniper rifle. He locked onto a cavalryman and after a short period of checking, he decisively pulled the trigger. Whoosh! The stream photon bullet flew out. However, it did not hit the original target. Instead, it hit the back of Zhong Yi, who was rushing over. Li Tian, Viper. After killing a soldier, Zhong Yi turned around and bared his teeth as he roared, "Don't hit your own people." Whoosh! At this moment, another stream photon bullet shot out and swept past his eyes, directly exploding the head of a cavalryman who was rushing over from behind. Chapter 449. The 1,000 wolf riders were like an invincible sharp blade. They crushed the 20,000 cavalrymen and 10,000 infantrymen, making them unable to counterattack. Crushing. Absolutely crushing. Jun Changshao, who was sitting on the city gate tower, held his face in his hands and sang, "How lonely it is to be invincible. How empty it is to be invincible." Mayor Xie's mouth twitched. Outside the city, the sound of killing was deafening. Corpses were everywhere. Sect leader Jun still had the mood to sing leisurely. How flirtatious. However, Mayor Xie was also quite shocked. These iron-boned Sect disciples, riding on hurricane wolves, burst out with terrifying combat strength. Not to mention Tao Yuan's tiger troop, even if they faced an elite troop, they would be invincible. Especially when they knew how to use arrays. That kind of cooperation and tacit understanding were not formed overnight. Thinking of this, Xie Guankuan couldn't help but look at Shui Rengui, who was holding the war flag, and thought to himself, this person is definitely talented. Kill! Kill! The members of Wolf Rider Hall riding hurricane wolves and holding cold-edged swords seemed to have turned into killing gods, mercilessly reaping lives. Mayor Xie's hanging heart was completely at ease. Because from the current situation, Qingyang City was temporarily safe. General. A deputy general's face turned ugly. Retreat. Half of the 30,000 tiger troop had died, and their morale had plummeted. If they continued to fight, they would be wiped out in less than an hour. Damn it! Tao Yuan clenched his fists in anger. The troop that he had painstakingly cultivated was defeated by 1,000 people. This was unacceptable to him. He had to accept it even if he didn't want to. In order to not let more soldiers die, he could only say with hatred, "Retreat." Since he joined the army, this was the first time he had lost a battle, and it was in a situation where he had the advantage in numbers. Swoosh! The deputy general waved the war flag and gave the order to retreat. The soldiers of the Tiger Might army, who were in panic, immediately retreated desperately. This kind of invincible enemy made their scalps explode. They wished they could grow a few more legs and escape as fast as possible. Sect leader Shui Rengui said, "They have retreated." Xie Guankuan was overjoyed. He, who was prepared to live and die with the city, did not expect that the final result would be that the enemy would be defeated before they could even attack the city. Jun Changshao said, "You come and go as you please. Do you think my Azure Sun County is a market?" He paused for a moment, and then said, "Kill them all, especially that one called Tao Yuan. Capture him alive." Yes. Shui Rengui waved the war flag again. Upon receiving the order, Zhong Yi once again led the team to charge forward. Relying on the speed of the hurricane wolves, they wiped out the enemy soldiers who attempted to escape one by one. General. The deputy general's expression changed drastically. They're too fast. There's no time to retreat. Tao Yuan shouted angrily, "Demonic explosive soldiers, stop them." Swoosh! Whoosh! The 500 soldiers of the Tiger Might army took out their demon explosive crossbows and loaded them with demon explosive arrows. Not good. Xie Guankuan said, "Explosive magic crossbow bolts." Jun Changshao smiled coldly and said, "I thought they wouldn't dare to use them." Tao Yuan did not dare to use the demon explosive crossbows when the crystal core throwers were destroyed because he knew that the enemy's hidden weapons would definitely hit them and cause a series of explosions. Now that he had summoned them, he had put a lot of distance between them and the enemy. No matter how strong the hidden weapons were, they had to have a range. I don't believe that the strange stream of light can fly over from 10 miles away from the city. Whoosh! Just as Tao Yuan was thinking, a stream of light streaked across the void and finally hit the demon explosive arrow that a soldier had just loaded on his crossbow. Boom! 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 The sound of explosions was endless. Looking from the city tower, one could clearly see flames and dust rising into the sky from 10 miles away. Hiss! Hiss! The series of explosions startled the war horses, causing them to raise their heads and neighed. Their eyes were filled with fear. Although Tao Yuan was a little far from the explosion, his war horse was startled and almost fell off. This. He tried to stabilize himself, his eyes filled with disbelief. General, be careful. At this moment, the lieutenant next to him exclaimed. Tao Yuan hurriedly looked to the other side and saw Zhong Yi rushing over on the hurricane wolf in the dust. Oh no! He hurriedly wanted to ride his horse and escape, but it was too late. Zhong Yi put away the cold-edged sword and instantly approached Tao Yuan. His big hand suddenly reached out and grabbed him from the war horse as if he was holding a chicken. General! The lieutenant and the soldiers roared angrily. Zhong Yi asked the hurricane wolf to slow down and lifted Tao Yuan up. He shouted, quickly put down your weapons and surrender. Damn it! Tao Yuan wanted to resist, but when he was captured, his meridians had been sealed by the enemy. At this moment, he could only be lifted up weakly. The general was captured, and there were wolf riders behind him. The lieutenant of the Tiger Army was filled with despair. After a short period of weighing the pros and cons, he threw down his weapon. At this time, he had no choice but to surrender. Whoosh! Whoosh! The soldiers of the Tiger Army threw down their weapons one after another. The cavalrymen also stopped their horses and jumped down from them. Since they had surrendered, the members of the Wolf Riding Hall would definitely not kill them wantonly. Therefore, they pulled out a line of defense and surrounded more than 6,000 soldiers. Ding! Defeated the Tiger Army of Xinjiang County. Meet the hidden criteria. Epic mission completion rate 30%. Host will receive 1,000 contribution points. Ding! Captured the enemy general. Meet the hidden criteria. Epic mission completion rate 50%. Host will receive 1,000 contribution points. Ding! Host has successfully defended Xinjiang City. Meet the hidden criteria. Epic mission completed. Completion rate 120%. Host will receive 4,000 contribution points. Ding! Sect contribution points, 9892500. Ding! Host has exceeded the requirements of the epic mission. Host will receive opening talisman X1, holy grade talent modification liquid X1, and some experience points. The system notification ended. The spiritual energy in Jun Changxiao's dantian was undergoing a qualitative change. At the same time, the cyclone next to him also turned into spiritual energy. Whoosh! In the outside world, majestic attributes emerged from his body. Half of it was vigorous and the other half was fierce. Everyone seemed to have sensed it and looked up. Seeing Jun Changxiao surrounded by the aura, they asked in surprise, is the sect leader about to break through? That's strange. Jiang Ye was puzzled. Why is there such a big commotion? When he broke through to Martial King, there were also signs of a breakthrough. However, compared to the sect leaders, it paled in comparison. What a powerful sword aura! Zhou Hong said with a serious look. Whoosh! Whoosh! At that moment, the two different types of energy gathered around Jun Changxiao turned into a beam of light and flew toward the sky. It was as if they were going to soar into the clouds. Jiang Ye was dumbfounded. When he broke through to Martial King, there was no such phenomenon. Yi Xingchen said with a serious look, sword and martial king, both of them will become kings. They will soar into the clouds and announce the arrival of a true king to the world. Gah! Jiang Ye was stunned and his facial muscles stiffened. Sword and martial king, both of them? Could it be, he exclaimed in shock, the sect leader is going to become the sword and martial king. Chapter 450. Sword and Martial King. City Lord Xia, who was standing at the side, almost fell to the ground when he heard Jiang Ye's words. His heart was in turmoil. In the falling star continent, there were dual cultivators who could reach the peak of both Dao and Martial King. However, this only existed in the records. City Lord Xia had never seen it before. Could it be that sect leader Jun's breakthrough today was going to broaden his horizons and make him unforgettable? Lu Qianqian's beautiful eyes were also filled with surprise. The sect leader usually only cultivated the martial Dao. When did he cultivate the sword Dao? Now that he suddenly stood on the city tower and wanted to become a sword and martial king, she was very confused and surprised. Whoosh! The two beams of light continued to pierce through the sky. No matter where one was in the Azure Sun County, as long as one raised their head, they could see the phenomenon. What is that? It feels like it's going to spread to the sky. Could it be that a treasure has appeared? Although many cultivators were confused, the more they looked at the two beams of light that shot into the sky, the more reverence they felt. Ordinary people even had the thought of worshipping. There were many martial kings and sword kings in the falling star continent. However, the sword and martial kings were very rare. Since they were about to descend today, everyone naturally had the urge to worship them. What was even more exaggerated was, the swords of the cultivators in the Azure Sun County trembled involuntarily as the beams of light that represented the sword Dao soared into the sky. It was as if they were cheering for the arrival of the king. What's going on? My sword doesn't seem to be listening to me anymore. Could it be because of the rising beams of light? Many cultivators were shocked. Whoosh! A figure flew out from the back mountain of the Tsang Mountain sect. It was a white-haired old man with a strong aura. He landed on the training ground and looked up at the sky. He exclaimed, "This is the sign of the sword and martial king." The elders of the Tsang Mountain sect were also alarmed. Ma Yuntang walked out first and said in surprise, "Sect leader, this place seems to be Azure Sun City." Wang Donglin was also stunned as he asked, "Since when did our Azure Sun County have a monster that can cultivate both sword and martial arts, and even become a king in both?" Speaking of evildoers, Ma Yuntang subconsciously blurted out, "Don't tell me it's Sect Master Jun." Wang Donglin agreed with this statement and said, "It's really hard to say." The growth of Jun Changshao and Iron Bone over the past year was enough to make the two of them think that they deserved the word monster. The Blue Mountain Sect's sect master said, "It's truly a joyous occasion that a sword and martial king has been born in our Azure Sun County." The Shangguan family. Shangguan Hong said excitedly, "I never thought that I would be able to witness the birth of the sword and martial kings in the Azure Sun County." His sons, who were standing behind him, were also in awe. Even though their cultivation wasn't too high, they had heard from their father that the Sword King and Martial King had reached such a level. Without a doubt, they were the top geniuses of the Starfall continent. He was not a genius. He was a dragon among men. On this day, Jun Changxiao's breakthrough in two Daos caused a phenomenon in the sky. Vast energy filled the entire Azure Sun County, causing many cultivators to be shocked and proud. However, even further away, the phenomenon in the sky could also be seen. Various cultivators were discussing intensely. Many of them were old. When they saw the two beams of light, their hands trembled as they said, "Someone has broken through, the sword and martial kings." What? For a moment, the various cities in the counties were in an uproar. Everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. According to the historical records, it has been at least 5,000 years since the sword and martial kings were born. My God, this is too sudden. Judging from the direction, it should be the 9th grade Azure Sun County. If it's really an Earth stage cultivator in the Azure Sun County who has broken through to the sword and martial kings, this county will probably rise to prominence. When the sword and martial kings pierced through the sky and could be clearly seen in several counties, it caused a huge commotion. Some people were confused. Why would a sword and martial king be born so suddenly? Some people were discussing. If there was really such a powerful person in the Azure Sun County, their social status would definitely increase greatly. In Haeong County, Hwayong County, and Jinyang County, the army was working hard to attack the cities. When the phenomenon appeared, the soldiers looked up and forgot that they were at war. Commander. A strategist frowned and said, "This is the sign of the arrival of the sword and martial kings." Bai Ruehu, the commander of the White Tiger Army, who was ordered to attack the 3 counties, walked out of his tent and said with a frown, "It seems to be the location of Azure Sun City. General Tao just sent troops over, and the sword and martial kings were born." "I'm afraid this is a bad omen," the strategist said. He guessed wrong. Before this phenomenon appeared, Tao Yuan and his Tiger Might army were already unknown. The arrival of the sword and martial kings in the Azure Sun County made Bai Ruehu realize that something was wrong. He immediately ordered, "Contact General Tao and ask him to return immediately." Yes. Whoosh whoosh, the 2 beams of light pierced through the sky. Jun Changshao, who was standing on the city gate tower, closed his eyes and felt the changes in his body. The spiritual energy in his spiritual core was much purer than before. Chapter 451. Since Jun Changshao had broken through to the sword and martial king realm, the discussions of the various provinces and counties would definitely not stop. Many forces and clans would also begin to investigate the person who had broken through to the sword and martial king realm in Qingyang County. After enjoying the pleasure of breaking through, Sect leader Jun looked at the forest outside the city and saw the dumbfounded martial king of Jinyang County. At first, this person was evenly matched with Jiang Ye in the forest. However, when the momentum of the breakthrough spread, he was deeply shocked and no longer had the mood to fight. Elder Jiang hurriedly used the cloud-treading steps and landed on the city gate tower. He happened to witness the whole process of the 2 beams of light shooting into the sky. "I won't say that I forgot that Jiang Ye was still fighting with someone, so I was quick-witted." "Old man." Jun Chang smiled and said, "How about the 2 of us fight?" Because he had broken through to the sword and martial king realm, his voice was filled with the aura of a king. Martial disciple, martial master, and Wuzong were, after all, only low middle level. The martial king realm was a huge dividing line. It would change in all aspects, including voice and aura. The martial king of Jinyang County frowned. He definitely wouldn't care about a martial king who had just broken through. However, this was a newly born sword and martial king. Who in the falling star continent didn't know that the sword and martial king's battle prowess was above that of martial king and martial king? Swoosh! Jun Changshao jumped and flew out of the city gate tower. The increase in his strength led to the increase in his movement technique. His jump gave people the feeling that he was about to fly. Ta! He landed steadily in front of the martial king and said, "Do you want to use your fist or your sword?" The martial king of Jinyang County's mouth twitched violently. "If I use my fist, you're a martial king. If I use my sword, you're a sword king. How the hell am I supposed to choose?" This was the advantage of the sword and martial king. They could fight however they wanted. Sect leader Jun, the martial king, said coldly, "Jinyang County has lost this battle. I'll take my leave first." Facing a sword and martial king made him feel very guilty. "No." Jun Changshao said, "You must fight with me. If you win, General Tao can take him away." "Not fighting." forcing you to fight. Needless to say, Jinyang County's King Wu was immediately tempted when he finished his last sentence. His mission in attacking Qingyang City was to protect Taoyuan. Now that he had been captured by the enemy, he would surely be held accountable if he were to return alone. If that's the case. He made up his mind and said, I'll meet the sword and martial kings today. With your fist, or with your sword? Fist. In a small forest outside Qingyang City. Jun Changshao and King Wu of the Jinyang County were about 20 meters apart. Jiang Ye was the only spectator at a close distance. The Iron Bone disciples were all standing on the city wall and watching from afar. Sect Master Jun, you're fighting a martial king right after breaking through. You're truly valiant. Xie Guangquan said in admiration. Jun Changshao said, can we start now? King Wu of the Jinyang County got into a fighting stance and thought to himself, although this kid is a sword and martial king, he just broke through. I'm a rank 4 martial king, so I should be able to fight him. From the word should, it was clear that he didn't have much confidence. There was nothing he could do. The sword and martial kings were famous. Without a high-rank martial king, it would be difficult to face them. Whoosh whoosh. Jun Changshao unleashed his cultivation, and a dense aura instantly spread out. King Wu of the Jinyang County hurriedly said, Sect Master Jun, we agreed to use your fist. Don't use your sword. Jun Changshao said, don't worry. I won't need to use my sword to deal with a martial king like you. The Jinyang County's martial king was furious. You're a sword and martial king. You're awesome, but you can't look down on others like this. Whoosh whoosh. In his anger, he also unleashed his cultivation. Although his aura was quite strong, there was a clear gap between him and Sect Master Jun in terms of aura and purity. Jiang Ye said in surprise, Sect Master has just broken through. Why is his aura so dense? That was because he had 2 spirit cores in his dantian. If they were unleashed together, it would definitely be stronger than a single spirit core. With 2 spirit cores, Jun Changshao's aura was not only dense, but his endurance was also strong. Even though he had just broken through and was evenly matched with the rank 4 martial king in front of him, he could still exhaust his opponent with his boundless spiritual energy. It could be said that our sect master Jun not only had the advantage of being a sword and martial king, he also had the advantage of having 2 spirit cores. He was definitely worthy of being called a monster. Old man. Jun Changshao said, I'm going to make my move. The more he said this, the more uncertain King Wu of the Jinyang County felt. Whoosh! Suddenly, Jun Changshao used the cloud-treading steps and rushed over. He was so fast that it was as if he had crushed a gallop talisman. Not good. King Wu of the Jinyang County's martial king's expression changed slightly. In the next second, he put his hands in front of his body to block and condensed a dense spiritual energy wall around him. Boom! The sound of an explosion was heard and waves of energy surged out. Jun Changshao appeared in front of him and punched with his right fist. Not only did it break the spiritual energy wall, it also landed on King Wu's arm. One could faintly see ripples in the air. Thump! 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 King Wu of the Jinyang County was pushed back. When he stabilized his body with great difficulty, his eyes were filled with shock. The strength of this punch was at least 2.5 million jin. He had just broken through and already had such terrifying strength. This person was definitely a supreme rank martial king. No, a supreme rank sword and martial king. Whoosh! Jun Changshao appeared in front of King Wu again and slapped him with his big hand. It seemed to be an understatement, but the strength it contained was increasing steadily. When it hit King Wu's right shoulder, it had already exceeded 3 million jin. King Wu of the Jinyang County was only an advanced rank for martial king and his strength was only 2.5 million. He was sent flying and crashed into more than 20 trees. Wah! When he landed, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Xie Guanquan, who was on the city gate tower, saw this and his mouth twitched violently. That was a genuine martial king, but he was beaten up by Sect Master Jun who had just broken through. Damn it. King Wu of the Xinjiang County tried his best to stand up. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and opened his hands abruptly. He quickly gathered the elements of heaven and earth around him. Jun Changshao said, "Are you going to use your trump card?" Whoosh! Whoosh! Soon, the elements of heaven and earth gathered in King Wu's hands from all directions. They formed a bright ball of light formed by 3 different elements. This is, Jiang Ye frowned slightly and said, high-rank 3-point origin gathering technique. Whoosh! Whoosh! The ball of light gathered in King Wu's hands became stronger and stronger. Jun Changshao stood in place, unmoved. His eyes were filled with disdain. In the past, it was others who looked down on him. Now that he had become a sword and martial king, he was looking down on a rank 4 martial king. Ta! King Wu of the Xinjiang County took a step forward and shouted with his eyes wide open, 3-point origin gathering technique. Whoosh! The ball of energy formed by the 3 elements of heaven and earth was thrown forward with great force. For a moment, a strong wind blew and the grass and trees flew everywhere. Xie Guanquan, who was far away, was shocked. He thought to himself, if it was me, I wouldn't be able to survive even if I had 10 lives. When he looked at Jun Changshao again, he saw that he was still standing in place. He looked like a high and mighty king. Could it be that he was going to take it head-on? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.